It's that time of the day again when Benjamin and I are here to serve you breakfast. Good morning and welcome to the AM show.
Well, you know how we do it. We're going to be serving you everything you need, giving you a bumper breakfast, starting with the news shortly, followed by the news review, the two gentlemen who join us, Kojopoku, an energy analyst, and Wisdom Dogbe, a financial analyst, followed by sports, courtesy Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. Now, for our big stories this morning, the majority leader in Parliament, Afenyo Makin, is accusing the NDC of engaging in political bias against Muslims, ousting their only Muslim leader, Haruna Idrisu, from his leadership position in Parliament, and touts the NPP as the only party that is inclusive, stirring controversy. But is there a place for the religious factor in the 2024 elections? Can playing the religious card turn the scales for the NPP? What does the research even say about the religion, or as religion, about religion as a factor in determining voter choices? We will delve into these issues and other matters related. Well, from there, we're going to be focusing on illegal mining and the ravages of same. There's been a pushback, though, from the Small Scale Miners Association, especially as the Ghana Medical Association has called on President Akufo-Addo to urgently place a ban on small-scale mining as a result of the wanton destruction of our forest reserves and water bodies. But the association is saying the call is misguided, that illegal mining is not small-scale mining. But the question is, how do we clamp down on this to bring some sanity to our environment? We'll delve into that issue as well, right here on the AM show. And you want to join us with your comments and your thoughts, either across social media, join us on TV, or at the tail end of the show when we open the phone lines for you to have your say. Welcome aboard. It's time for the AM News, and I'll be serving you that in a bit. It's 88 days to the general elections, and we are your election headquarters, proudly brought to you by Petrosol Platinum Energy, Energizing Dreams, a Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA, and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, AICP, together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. Also, German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy, Dental, Wellness and Beauty, as well as Chopbox Technologies, a convenience service, and Youth Bridge Foundation, bridging the gap for positive youth development. This morning, the National Democratic Congress, NDC, is set to hit the streets in a nationwide demonstration against the Electoral Commission. The protest is scheduled for September 17th in all regional capitals across the country. And this is the NDC's next move to compel the EC to clean the current voter register. This was announced by the party's national chairman, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, after filing presidential nominations on behalf of the party's candidate, John Dramani Mahama. James Aveji has details, plus a wrap of day one of the activities at the EC headquarters.
On the first day of filing of nominations, 8 candidates, including the MPP's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the NDC's John Dramani Mahama, as well as other independent candidates, including Kofi Akpalu, Nana Kwame Bediako, Cheddar, and others, have filed nominations. First, listen to the NPP's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who is committing to peace ahead of the elections.
We don't want to tear down our country. And so it's very important that our country is uplifted after the election. And in this context, I believe that our prayers and our behaviors as we go through and our conduct will be very, very important to ensure that this process is very peaceful at the end of the day.
Flag bearer of the LPG, Kofi Akpalu, hopes to secure the #1 slot on the ballot paper for Victory 2024.
We know for sure I will be #1 on the ballot. And I want all Ghanaians to rally behind LPG, vote Kofi Akpalu to be the next president of Ghana.
The APC's candidate, Dr. Hassan Ayariga, is promising to halt all forms of mining as his first measure to tackle Galamsey if he is elected president on December 7.
Challenges of Galamsey. Look at our water bodies today. Look at what is happening. The APC manifesto will be launched somewhere next week, and we will be very strict. Nobody is supposed to mine in Ghana. Nobody again. We will cut down anybody, mining companies or whatever. Nobody's supposed to mine. The only institution allowed to mine in Ghana is going to be the government of Ghana.
A new face will also pick form to contest the election. Samuel Appiah Dankwa is promising to pull up a surprise come December 7th.
I know for most people, it's almost like we are going to pull the unexpected, but please be prepared for that.
National Chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, after filing nominations on behalf of John Dramani Mahama, has declared a nationwide demonstration against the EC on September 17 if they refuse to heed to their call for a forensic audit into the voter roll.
Those of you who have been asking us, if they don't comply, what would you do? This is your answer. On the 17th of this month, the NDC is embarking on a massive nationwide demonstration in all 16 regional capitals. Descend on the Electoral Commission offices, and we in Accra will descend to the headquarters.
But what is the position of the NPP on the call of the NDC? Here is former Director of Elections for the NPP, Peter McMenu.
Playing a chase-up game on us because we left this in 2015. When they said, oh, MPP is talking nonsense, MPP is talking rubbish.
The EC said 2 different committees have been set up to work on the nomination forms of the various candidates for a smooth running of the process.
As in 2020, the Commission has established 2 teams which have been tasked to review all forms submitted.
By Friday, 13th of September, at least 34 candidates are expected to submit their nomination forms to the EC as they hope to get the green light to contest in the December 7, 2024 elections. From the EC headquarters here in Accra, James Savaji reporting for Joy News.
The running mate of the National Democratic Congress, Professor Senanu Pukwuagyemang, has contended that the National Democratic Congress has always developed the northern region anytime they are in power. She listed roads, university, electricity, among others, as developments the NDC brought to the area. Professor Senanu Pukwuagyemang said this when she addressed a mammoth rally at the campaign launch of the Tamale South constituency parliamentary candidate Haruna Idrisu.
Heavy downpour on Sunday in Tamale could not stop the huge NDC party following, which thronged the SCC Quarters Park to participate in the launch of the Tamale South campaign launch. The ecstatic crowd danced to tunes of the party amid slogans. Dignitaries who graced the occasion included MPs, party officials, both past and present. Speaking at the event, Professor Nana Jean Opoku-Agyemang said the NDC would empower women when voted into power.
We can never forget the northern region. That is why we bring good things here. We bring university here. Now tell me, are you listening? Are you listening? What party brings electricity to the northern region? What party brings water? And that is why we vote. We don't vote for any reason.
The immediate past national chairman of the party, Ofosu Ampofo, said Haruna Idrisu deserved credit for his support in building the NDC party.
When the NDC lost power in 2000 and everybody was running away and people didn't want to stand and be counted, Haruna Idrisu was then a young person who has left the university, who was brilliant, who was capable of getting any meaningful employment. Honorable Haruna Idrisu decided that instead of going to work in the bank or go to work elsewhere and get money, he will come to the NDC party office, the opposition NDC office, to come and work for us as a party.
On his part, the Member of Parliament for Asawasi constituency, Mubarak Mohammed Mutaka, charged party supporters to be vigilant on election day.
We have done a lot of it. You have shown it. You are here in the rain. Since morning, you have shown commitment. This dedication is what we want to see on election day. On election day, one of the things that really affects us is that after they declare your MP winner, you take your jubilation and move away from collection center. As you do that, you are giving the EC and our opponent the opportunity to manipulate election results. Our plea for you is that this year, our slogan is that we are protecting the last vote. Until the last vote is counted, we are not resting our house. And believe me, this year's election, as everybody knows, election in Ghana, you to win is 50% plus one. That one could be me, that one could be you, that one could be everybody. So from your polling station to the collection center, don't underestimate a single vote.
Aspiring members of parliament of various political parties and independent aspirants for election 2024 have been filing their nomination forms at the Electoral Commission's offices across the country. In the Ashanti region, some incumbent MPs have already filed their nominations with high hopes of securing another term in office. My colleague Nana Boakye-Yadom observed the process and has filed this report.
The Electoral Commission of Ghana officially commenced the process of receiving nominations from aspiring presidential and parliamentary candidates, making an essential milestone towards the upcoming general elections slated for December 7. In the Ashanti region, some aspirant and incumbent MPs filed their nominations with high hopes of securing another term in office.
In my constituency, there is no doubt that this election, though we believe every election is important to us, there's no doubt that this election, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is going to be victorious. Yes, I believe that not every single thing that we needed to do has been done. Yes, but if you look at the manifesto that we presented to this country, about 78 to 84% of it is being done. At least that is an A score, and people are going to look up to that and vote for us again, for His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and Honorable Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh to become the next leaders of this country, and Akwesi Kunedu to continue with the work that I'm doing in Menchiano as the second-term member of parliament for Menchiano constituency.
In the Aswanse constituency, the New Patriotic Party's parliamentary aspirant Manaf Ibrahim filed his nomination to contest incumbent MP Muntaka Mubarak. Flanked by party supporters, Manaf is hopeful of securing victory. He has called for unity to break the long rule of the incumbent MP.
I have been talking to the constituents for about a year now, and I'm quite convinced that, God willing, in the next 90 days or so, I will be the member of parliament elect for the Asawasi constituency, God willing, because I've received the assurances from those who matter. I mean the constituents who vote, the opinion leaders, the general stakeholders. And they said they can't wait. After 20 years, they think that this is the time for a new direction. And I have been giving them my message that I want to provide a responsive and accountable leadership to the people of the Asawasi constituency. And so far it's been received well. So I am very convinced. I'm convinced that I will be the member of parliament elect in the next 95 days.
Can you face off Muntaka in the Asawasi constituency?
I'm actually not facing off Muntaka. I'm actually talking to the constituents to give me the constituency. That is not his. The people, the sovereignty resides with them. And once they decide I should be the MP, there is basically nothing he can do.
For Joy News, Nana Boakye-Yadom, Kumasi.
In other stories, a former director of elections of the National Democratic Congress has chided the Akufo-Addo government for poorly handling the illegal mining menace. Elvis Efriye-Ankra accused the NPP administration of failing in the fight against illegal mining, popularly referred to as Galamsey. The former Minister of Youth and Sports, in an interview with Joy News, insists the unprecedented failure of the government in bringing the Galamsey menace under control should be enough motivation to vote the NPP out of power. Ohiming Tewia of our security desk has more.
President Akufo-Addo in July 2017 said he was prepared to put his presidency on the line in the fight against Galamsey.
I've said it in the cabinet, and perhaps it's the first time I'll be saying it in public. I am prepared to put my presidency on the line on this matter.
It's been 7 years since the announcement from the president. Not even a series of targeted police military anti-Galamsey operations, including Operation Vanguard and Operation Hot, could help stem the tide on illegal mining. Illegal miners continue to plunder river bodies and forest reserves, despite the ban on mining in forests and river bodies. Former Director of Elections for the NDC, Elvis Efriye Ankra, warns Ghanaians to kick the MPP out of power as he accuses the Akufo-Addo government of failing Ghanaians in the Galamsey fight.
In fact, if there is any single reason why we must vote out this government, if you don't have any reason at all, the Galamsey fight is more than enough reason. Because you see, the implications are very serious. First of all, please look for the pictures of the water bodies 2016 and compare it to the pictures of the water bodies down. Now that's number one. Number two, Nana Addo himself said he's ready to put his presidency on the line in the fight against Galamsey. What has happened? Every single report or commission or committee that he constituted, the committees themselves come out to say that their people in government are the ones responsible. It's not me saying it. It's there. Number four, the effect is that Ghana Water says if we are not careful in the next few years, they cannot pipe water for us. That's serious. Fifthly, medical science data is showing that there's an increase in skin cancer, preterm abortions, and kidney diseases, and this year, and all those things. So it's a critical danger. If there is anything they could have done, they would have done it already. If you don't have any reason, you drink water every day, the water is polluted, the chemicals are not enough to treat the water. It will give you skin cancer, brain cancer, kidney disease. That's why people are dying of kidney diseases. People are being diagnosed of kidney disease on a daily basis. Vote out this government. He said it. I didn't say it. I didn't put a gun to his head. Nobody forced him. He himself said that he will put his presidency on the line if he fails in the fight. And it's evident that he has failed. So he should be resigning.
According to Mr. Efriye Ankra, who is also a member of the 2024 Manifesto Committee, a new NDC government will streamline mining operations in Ghana to protect forest zones and river bodies.
No mining on water bodies and forest reserves. That's the first thing that has to be done. And then now you streamline the whole Galamsey. That's why we say we'll make sure that we streamline it, registration in the districts with monitoring and ensuring that mining will have to continue. But we are not the only country that has gold. Other countries also have got South Africa, all other places. They do sustainable mining. The models are there. We have to learn from them. So we are not saying that we will let people stop mining. Again, people can misrepresent. But we're saying that it has to be done in sustainable ways. And as for mining on water bodies and in forest reserves, it's a no, 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 no.
Meanwhile, the NDC is promoting responsible mining in the country. From Kumasi for Joy News, Oyemi reporting.
Moving on, President Akufo-Addo says despite criticism, his government has made significant strides in the fight against corruption. The president and his government have been accused of paying lip service to the fight against graft and done little to nothing to end the practice. But delivering the keynote address at the annual Ghana Bar Association conference in Kumasi, President Akufo-Addo said there seemed to be a coordinated effort to tag him, his family and government as corrupt by the NDC in particular. Nanaya Ojima has more in this report.
The annual Ghana Bar Association conference is themed Peaceful, Fair and Transparent Election, the key to sustainable democracy. President Akufo-Addo in his address touted his performance in the fight against corruption, comparing his performance to that of former President John Mahama. He says enough resources have been committed by his government to the corruption fight.
I'm aware that there's a deliberate, politically motivated effort to stigmatize my government, my family, and myself as corrupt. I suspect as payback for the damaging allegations of corruption leveled against members of the erstwhile Mahama administration, some of which have led to criminal convictions, and others are still being prosecuted in court. In spite of scrutiny, by credible public institutions of virtually all these allegations of misconduct on the part of my government, my family, and myself, which have been found to be baseless, the leader of the opposition, the perennial NDC presidential candidate, continues to describe me as a clearing agent. It is important that I reiterate that I will not abandon under any circumstance recourse to due process in the fight against corruption. Be that as it may, in any event, I'll leave it to the Ghanaian public and people. I will leave to the judgment of the Ghanaian public and people to decide whether it is preferable to be a clearing agent or government official. One.
In the upcoming elections, the president is calling on all to aid in the combat of disinformation and misinformation, which may negatively affect the transparency of the election.
In this political season, it is vital that we guard against the politics of lies, disinformation, and misinformation, as these undermine the democratic process and erode public trust. The spread of propaganda and falsehoods can mislead voters, distort the truth, and create unnecessary tension within the body politic. Political actors, the media, and citizens alike have a shared responsibility to ensure that information disseminated is accurate, verified, and truthful.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ochima, Kumasi.
Coming up next is Business Updates with Benjamin Akakpo.
Thank you for staying. Let's get right into it. And in our first story, economist Lord Mensah has asked the government to tread cautiously with regard to accessing the $51 billion fund set up by China for African countries. According to him, although the funds will be beneficial, government must understand the package perfectly well before tapping into it. He spoke to Joy Business.
Going forward, every single penny that we borrow into the country must go into projects that can be self-financing. But then I like the bit of private sector financing because you're looking at possibility of private individuals having access to funding, and which Ghana is struggling as we speak now, looking at our high interest rate levels and all those. So if we get an external funds that will come into the country to come and serve that purpose through the banks, right? Because the reason why I'm emphasizing on the banks is that the banks have the technical know-how to determine which sectors of the economy are doing well and all those. So effectively, I'm happy that such a fund is being made available by the Chinese government, and somehow, African countries can tap into it. But then we should be careful, and get to know the package. If it's a type of fund that we're going to borrow to come into the pool of government, which is not directed towards any, project, then I'm afraid I would say that we shouldn't go in that direction.
Well, the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation has expressed confidence of an increase in the production capacity of bauxite mining going forward. This comes after Parliament in July this year unanimously ratified a mining lease for the Ghana Bauxite Company, allowing it to mine bauxite at Awaso in the Bibiani Ariaso Bekwai municipality of the Western North region. According to Senior Technical Manager at Jayadec, Dr. Kwabena Mensah, the move by Parliament will boost the bauxite mining space and explore more opportunities for Ghana. He spoke to Joy Business at a media engagement on the report of the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative 2021 and 2022 report.
All bauxite deposits are held by Jayadec Trust for the government and the people of Ghana. So to ensure that they can meet the quantities and the volume that we seek for the integrated aluminium project, we've added on 2 more hills, the Afumba and the Boka hills, so that we will have enough resource to meet the new capacity that they are required to meet. And they are as well working on improved equipment, moving away from the traditional mining methods to sustainable mining means that will meet environmental requirements and other standards that are required of the GIADEC process. So it's a step, it's not a one-day occurrence. They are working judiciously to meet the new demands that's required of them and to make sure that they are mining sustainably. There's very, very, very clear efforts to go into sustainable mining of our bauxite resource, to reduce our environmental footprint and to meet all sorts of principles that are guided by GIADEC's laws and GIADEC's way of doing things. Significantly, the mining process itself is going to be improved upon using new methods that are already in play in the Amazon forest, for example, using the surface miner, training and bringing up the level of expertise and workforce that they have, and to live more with a corporate responsibility that are news to the host community specifically.
Well, from here, let's hop onto our currency market for the day. And that's how we wrap it up for our business update, handing over back to Sweetie Abochi.
Thank you, Benjamin. And that's how we're wrapping up the AM News Bulletin on the AM Show. You want to stay with us because News Review comes up next with Kojo Poku, Energy Analyst, and Wisdom Dugbe, Financial Analyst. Back in a bit.
Welcome back. This is the AM News Review. And of course, I have my guests joining the conversation. Kojo Poku is an energy analyst. He also doubles as the head of the Energy Committee of the Bawumia campaign. There's also Wisdom Dugbe. He's a financial analyst. Both of them join the conversation. Gentlemen, good morning.
All right. Good morning, Ben. How are you?
Welcome back.
I am well. Kojo, good to get back, interact with you. Wisdom Dugbe, I heard you saying something.
I say welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's good to have you join the conversation as well. So let's get right down to it. I want us to maximize the time. I'll start with you, Kojo. Your quick thoughts for us this morning, and then I'll take Wisdom's, and then we continue from there.
Well, I want to say a big good morning and congratulations to the flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, for successfully filing his nomination to contest this year's election. I think it's a first step in the right direction. It's about time that we get this show on the road. And I think the party has just started. Now that we have filed, we've been hitting the road so far, but we'll get back on the road again and basically impress home the good news and the policies that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has for the Ghanaian people. I think it's going well so far. We've been to the most part of the eastern region, Greater Accra, and the response is very great.
Great. For you, Wisdom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Ben, I read a news article about the Institute of Economic Affairs, questioning the effectiveness of the Bank of Ghana's policy rate, that it has not been effective in terms of managing inflation. And I think they are right. Inflation has cooled from the mid-50s in 2022 to the current rate of about 22%. Yet it seems the policy rate only declined by a percentage point over the same period. It got me curious to ask, if the policy rate, the way they set the rate, is it taken into account, or is it done to target inflation or manage inflation? The U.S. is about to cut rates, right? Because inflation has cooled significantly. And that is good for businesses to begin to invest in expansion, hiring new employees, and also investing more into their businesses because of the favorable rate environment. And so I've been wondering if such rate cuts is also in the works as far as Ghana is concerned, as well as boosting economic activity in the nation. Look, I also don't believe the policy rate has been entirely effective in Ghana in addressing inflation. With the decline that we're seeing in inflation, yes, still the policy rate is pretty high, right? And so I think that it will be a good thing for the Monetary Policy Committee to actually take that decision and cut rates.
Interesting thoughts, gentlemen. Thank you for sharing them. Let's get into the newspapers now. I'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. EC must act with impartiality. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. Then 8 file presidential nomination forms. There's Walewale NPP parliamentary rerun, 3 arrested over ballot box snatching. If you turn to the back page, 2025 AFCON qualifiers, Black Stars stumble again, held by resilient Niger. I was somewhere and started watching this, and then I lost interest. Not that I would have personally tuned in, and I'm being very, you know me, I don't hide my sentiments, because with the way things are going with the Black Stars and even how they are managed and how players are put on depending on where you sit, and our pitches, what is wrong with our pitches? The other day there was a clear instance where Thomas Partey against the Angolans, a ball that typically he would have just whipped in from within, just outside the box. He had to pause because there was a big, whatever, more like a crater there. And if he wasn't careful in balancing the ball, if you've ever played football, you would know that he could have twisted his ankle or something. So he had to rather pause, and the moment was lost. I don't know how with our pitches we're even expecting to win. This one, of course, was played in Morocco because Niger itself cannot play in Niger. But anyway, but they stumbled again against a resilient Niger. You have to give credit to the Nigerians as well, drawing 1-1. But let me get into the main issues. So EC must act with impartiality. That's according to President Akufo-Addo, who has charged the Electoral Commission to conduct the December 7 polls with impartiality, independence, and integrity. He said the EC had a critical role to play as the body charged to oversee the electoral process, and that it must, quoting him, ensure the process is fair to all parties and that the results reflect the true will of the people. He also said the Commission should also ensure that all logistical arrangements are in place to facilitate a smooth voting process, and any disputes that arise are handled expeditiously and transparently. He said this at the annual conference of the Ghana Bar Association. He also cautioned political parties against declaring results before the EC did so, because that could lead to confusion, misinformation, and potential conflict. Well, he would know, because his side and the other side, the NDC, have done it in the past. Then he talks about lies and disinformation. He warned against the politics of lies, disinformation, and misinformation in the run-up to the December polls, saying those elements undermined the democratic process and eroded public trust. He said the spread of propaganda and falsehoods could mislead voters, distort the truth, and create unnecessary tension within the body politic, and that political actors, the media, and citizens alike had a shared responsibility to ensure that information disseminated was accurate, verified, and truthful. So here's my question, Mr. President, especially as he talks about misinformation, disinformation, and the rest. He spoke about government official 1. Then he said that some people had been tagging his government as being corrupt, he together with his family as being corrupt, and that all of that is, of course, hogwash. But then he goes back to talk about government official 1, noting that even the special prosecutor has determined that this person was not culpable. So I'm asking, you talk about lies, misinformation, disinformation. Don't put out things that are not true, that you definitely know will not stand that empirical test. yet, Mr. President, in your own speech. I don't know, but I'll start with you, Wisdom Dogbe, for your thoughts on this particular story as we move on. Are the political elements themselves living up to expectation on this?
Well, I think there is a good reason why a section of Ghanaians believe His Excellency President Akufo-Addo is a corrupt leader. I think the level of corruption in his government could easily pass as the worst in our modern history as a nation. I'm sure.
What makes you think he's corrupt? You can't just say he's corrupt and move on. What makes you? What facts do you have?
And I'll get there. When he was elected, a lot of Ghanaians were very hopeful because of this same issue of corruption. Many thought that he would come and root out corruption that has plagued the nation for years. But to our dismay, not only did corruption continue, but it has also become a norm in his government, multiplying across all sectors, and it's become more of a canker to our nation. Look, corruption runs amok in this government, and I'll get to your question quickly. There are briberies everywhere. Look at the Joyce News documentary called Porous Borders, where custom officials take bribes at the border instead of assessing the accurate import duties. There is
let's stick to the executive. Let's stick to the executive. I'm sure you would have examples from there, and those are what I want to see, because when you talk about some of these, yes, they will tell you, I mean, those are not directly government, so to speak, though we can stretch the executive. So let's stick to the executive arm of government.
Let's talk about government. We have government officials that are buying or grabbing state properties at paltry prices because they are enabled to do so, right? They are enabled to do so, so to speak. We have huge sums of money that are spent on national cathedral construction and on the so-called Palugu Dam and several others. So look at the way the SML contract was given. Yet the average Ghanaian can barely afford rent and other basic necessities in life. And when these corrupt officials are caught, Ben, they end up being cleared. He talked about the former president calling him a clearing agent. This is the reason, because when you catch these corrupt politicians, he ends up clearing them.
He says he's following the rule of law. He's following due process.
Ben, come on, give me a break. I'm not surprised he will say that. We have evidence that some of the contracts were given without even following our own laid down procurement laws. So what is the due process in that? And so there's a reason why people think he's corrupt, and also calling him a mother serpent of corruption, as I read from some reporting. There is always evidence to back up some of these allegations against the president.
All right. Well, I would prefer that we didn't have to reference these politicians with all these terms, because if one does it, the other does it, equalization, I don't think it's necessary. But anyway, I guess politicians have their own way of doing things. Kojopoku.
Well, politicians have a way of doing things, but commentators like Mr. Dugbe also have a responsibility not to push down the name of the highest office in this country down the gutter, as he's just done. You know, he made a very specific allegation, and when you pushed him, he couldn't substantiate. He went on talking about the officials and this. Yes, you can talk about a government, a perceived corrupt government. Nobody will argue, because yes, the perception could be there. But you can't be specific on the president and call him corrupt. And when you're pushed for further information, you couldn't give it. You see, we should stop some of these things. The reason people keep going on after our own is that we sit on national television and make these pronouncements. It's very unfortunate. But look, the issue of corruption.
Ojo, can I ask you a quick question?
Wisdom. Let him have his say, and then if you have a retort or
you
anything,
were asked the question. You were asked a specific question. You couldn't answer. You went around the bush, and basically everybody knows that what you are saying is just basically propaganda. So let's move on. Look, the most important thing in this country is that we safeguard what we have. We have a big problem with rent seeking in this country, and I'm on record to say that. I'll give Nanado's government 85%, and the 15% is basically the fight against corruption. I have said it, okay? It doesn't go to say that the president, is corrupt. We live in a nation where a lot needs to be done to check a lot of things. And that is why in some instances, yes, I believe that there should have been more action in certain people going to court on both sides. on the NDC side, I think a lot of people who are walking the streets today should be in court, at least be in court, if not in jail. Okay, so when these things don't happen, that is why people will say that, look, if you preach, and you don't act, then what is the point in the preaching? So look, let me go on to make my statement on the pitches thing that you made mention then.
No, let me ask you something very quickly, Kojo. I'm just curious. You know, every now and then you hear things about, because the president mentioned his own family. Ordinarily, I wouldn't go here, but some of his daughters, for example, and roles they play, from creative arts to all of that, and then painting certain bridges, underpasses, and all of that, and the costs we've heard. In recent times, I try to dissociate, because of my background, I try to dissociate, you know, some of these things from personalities. But then you have the latest ambulance saga and the claims about Okoro and his ties to this and that. All of those that have happened over time, and oh, this restaurant has been put up and it is this and that and it cost X amount and all of that. Do you feel, without the lack of clarity on those, because I've not seen any clarity on these issues, including the last one, the ambulance issue, do you feel it does or doesn't feed into the perception of corruption, especially when it comes to the first gentleman's inner circle, his own family? What do you think?
That is why he talks about the fake news. Look, we have a country where people can just take an official letterhead of the presidency and put a letter out when it's fake, right? Now, if you are to respond to everything somebody put on social media, then you never even have breakfast in the morning, because people are busy spreading out. The fact that somebody says something and somebody doesn't respond, that makes it right. See, the issue, look, I always tell this story. I have a very good friend in Nigeria, and between 2001 and 2008, my friend in Port Harcourt, every tall building or new hotel in Port Harcourt was meant for my friend, because at that time he was the brother-in-law to the governor. When they came out of office, he's my friend. I'm in business with him. None of those things belong to him. And everybody realized that afterwards, none of those things belong to him. But that is it comes with the role. Everything that you do as a member of the first family, people will say or would say otherwise. So I don't think that those are truth. The fact that people are spewing them out doesn't make them truth. That is the bit that I want us to clear.
Well, thank you.
Lots of things out doesn't make it true.
All right, thank you for that. Before you go to sports, because I want us to stay on this point before you move on. But let's not also create the picture that, oh, it's just out there on the streets. Some of these matters have been got into, even by the media, and we never got any follow-up. You have the opportunity, Wisdom, to quickly add on so that he gets into sports and then we get into other stories.
Right. Look, one of those instances, what we're talking about is perception of corruption here. When KPMG audited the SML contract, they came back to the president, and the recommendation was that, or one of the findings was that this contract was not issued per the guidelines of the Procurement Act, right? The procurement laws of the land.
Right.
And the president had the option to terminate or allow this thing to continue so that folks will continue to have that perception that it's corrupt. And what did he do? He allowed this whole thing to continue. And now we are.
So the fact that somebody take an executive decision makes it corrupt?
Kojo, when you were speaking and he tried to interject, I did not let him do it. Please hold. Wisdom, go ahead.
You need to own up to your decisions. Whatever decision that he had the power to save the nation a ton of money in this SML deal, what did he do? These are the kind of things that make people think that it's corrupt.
All right. Thank you very much. Kojo, let's not go back and forth. I don't want too much of. So let's get into the sports.
I'm not going. Look, when Mr. Dugbe says things, I mean, the viewers know where it's coming from, so there's no point. Let me go to our pitch and the issue with our pitches.
Kojo,
it's
Kojo.
Yes.
Please, let's be. Of course, with me, I can take quite a lot, but be respectful to the other party. You said something earlier about what he says is just propaganda. I let it go. Now you're saying when he says something, we know where it's coming from. I don't know what you are insinuating, but people know that you are a member of the MPP, for example. So if he speaks but let's keep it respectful. I don't want it to later become, something in a banter. So please avoid such statements. Go ahead with your comments on sports.
Okay, no problem. The issue with the pitches, when the Black Star played in Kumasi some time ago, the vice president visited the Black Stars in Kumasi, and the issue of the pitches came up. And if you take note of what we've put in that the sports proposals in his manifesto, going forward, there's a lot of stuff that we've proposed to do in the coming budget and in the coming years to basically make sure that we bring in the technology. Because I think that the world has moved on. The world is no longer doing the soil grass pitches that we have in Ghana. There's a lot of investment that needs to go into our sports. So that technology needs to be brought in. Look, it's without a doubt that anybody who wins this coming election, in our next budget, we should make a lot of investment in football pitches in Ghana. And that is something that I thought is worthy of knowing that we are, as a government and as a proposed manifesto, there is a lot of effort to be made on our pitches because it is appalling, and I think something needs to be done.
I have an interesting question for you, Kojo. And when I interacted with former President Mahama at the Kempinski Hotel, I remember, I've forgotten who brought it up, but someone brought it up there, asking him about the quality of stadia and if he became president again, what he would do. And he gave his own answers. But I'm curious. I may not be as smart as you, the politicians, because sometimes I guess everything we say is nonsense.
Oh, I'm not a politician, so I'm not that smart.
But Agenda 111, for example. Look, someone was telling me something, and I'll direct my team to go to that particular health outfit. And the things the person who has worked there before, a medical professional, was telling me, he's now outside the country. It was staggering. It was disturbing. And I'll get my team to go there. And then sometimes people will say, oh, I mean, you are exposing. It's so sad. You have so many great medical facilities, but a lot of them have deteriorated over time. Instead of working on them, we say we want to build a swathe of other hospitals, when even the main ones we have are struggling. Fine. Our pitches. We have these stadia, a number of them. What is the state of our pitches today, especially after the last tournament we had? Even in the All Africa Games, we struggled with a lot of these, even with the University of Ghana stadium, and then claimed we had spent, was it 16 million? Is it dollars or Ghana cedis? I think it was dollars on that pitch alone. Only God knows what went into that. But my question, Kojo, Dr. Bawumia says he is going to build further stadia. One, I don't know whether you are aware, we don't have a grade A, FIFA grade A stadium in Ghana. We don't. The highest level of pitch, stadium. We don't have that. A footballing nation like Ghana. That is one. Two, with the state of the Baba Yara Sports Stadium, Kumasi and Accra, the pitches and everything, why can't we rather make these stadia better, world class, instead of adding on when I don't know what you think.
Ben, I think you should appreciate the parallel approach. Well, I made a submission to you right now, and in the same breath where you read that there were extra stadia to be built, in that same breath, you would have read that the pitches issue has been addressed. It's not like somebody's ignoring one and attending to one. There is no issue where, in terms of the Agenda 111 and the hospital issues that you come up with. You remember, I have always talked about these things, that we need to have quality, affordable, and accessible healthcare system. The issue of hospitals, the existing hospitals, some of them are in a state that are not worthy, right? But there's a lot that is being done by the
What do you mean? Some of them are in a state that are not worthy.
The hospitals, sorry?
What do you mean by some of them are in a state that are not worthy? What do you mean by that?
Well, the issue, and when you go to some of the facilities, some of the basic things that you need in there will not be there. And that is acceptable fact. But that doesn't stop the fact that you cannot address that and build other hospitals for people who don't have.
I guess the bottom line is that they are not addressing that, but the claim is always we are building new ones. They are
addressing it. Don't say that it's been addressed. Those things are being addressed. It's the same thing that you see, because you see, it's a matter of priority. Now, somebody is coming in to say that, look, I'm going to prioritize both. I'm going to have a parallel approach. That is why I said that with the pitch issue, there is a manifesto that in that manifesto promised to build more stadia, has also promised to fix the pitches. It's not like we said one and left the other. So it's a parallel approach.
All right. Let me just let our viewers, Wisdom, hold for me. Let me just let our viewers also know that these pitches, in fact, there was a time when I think FIFA was mentioning that if we were not careful, is it CAF rather, was mentioning that if we were not careful, we wouldn't even get to play in our own country because of the quality of our pitches. And I would also make this point. Wisdom, you will have the final say and then we move on. The point also that with the state of the pitches is something to be addressed now. It's not something about building new stadia and the time it will take. Because if we are not careful, it could actually impact our chances of qualification. Like I said the other day, it was clear, some of our players. In fact, the goal that was scored against us, I've forgotten the gentleman's name. The ball bounced, okay, hit him, and then fell right towards the opponent. And that's how they scored us. It took that unwieldy bounce. Ordinarily, that ball would have been clear. If you watched so it is affecting our chances of qualification. I don't know when we are going to do it. Maybe when we fail to qualify, God forbid, then we would. Wisdom, you have the final word on this and then we move.
Ben, and I'll go straight to the point on this, right? Some of these things are typical examples of create, loot, and share. It's the same corruption that we were talking about. There are so many stadia that we can invest in, uplift them. If you go to Honia Adakulu, they built one of those facilities over there. Today is collecting snakes and rodents and all of that. Instead of investing in that, bringing it up to par, they have in their manifestos that they will build all the stadium, and they are completely ignoring what is already been done. This is the phenomena we have to deal with. For instance, quickly, and I'll end on this one. We have our government going out to start new affordable housing constructions. When they ignore the one that the previous government started because they don't want the previous government to take credit for that. For instance, the Sagalami project. So these are some of the issues that we have as a nation that we have to deal with instead of giving all these campaign promises just to get votes.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me go to page 11, a matter that I am greatly concerned about. I always want to delve into these stories. It's a health one. ECOWAS Gender Center supports fistula in Ghana with $245,000. If you don't know about fistula and what it does to our women, you should check it out. I'm so happy about this. Now, the ECOWAS Gender Development Center has presented a check of $245,000 to the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection in Accra to rehabilitate the Tamale Fistula Center in the northern region. The Fistula Center will thus receive a facelift and have an additional theater to support an already existing one, an anesthesia machine and new beds, among others. The check was presented last Friday at the launch of 4 gender programs being implemented by the EGDC in Ghana on the theme, Strengthening Women's Health Needs and Social Empowerment. Now, the head of the National Fistula Task Force, Dr. Gabriel Ganyagulu, who represented the Chief Director of the Ministry of Health, Alhaj Hafiz Adam, in a remark, thanked the EGDC for the support, saying it would go a long way to help the thousands of women who are suffering from the disease, especially in the northern part of the country, which is why I feel it's so fitting that they are targeting the northern belt as far as this is concerned, Tamale to be specific. And I'm hoping that all of this money will be used for the reason for which it's been given. But then let's get into other stories on page 13. 8 file presidential nomination forms, so to speak, and 8 presidential aspirants, including the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia of the New Patriotic Party and former President John Dramani Mahama of the National Democratic Congress, yesterday filed their nomination forms at the Electoral Commission to contest the 2024 presidential election. The orderly process, done according to pre-arranged schedules, was one more of the key steps in the process towards the highly anticipated polls on December the 7th. Those who also filed yesterday included Hassan Ayariga of the All People's Congress, Christian Kwabena Andrews of the Ghana Union Movement, and Percival Kofi Akpalu of the Liberal Party of Ghana. The chairperson of the EC, Jean Mensah, personally received the nomination forms and said a review of the forms would begin immediately. She also gave the assurance that the presidential and parliamentary elections would be free and fair. And of course, as Ghanaians, maybe we shouldn't beg because it is our right for elections to be free and fair. But we are begging, especially on the back of some of the happenings in 2020, that it does turn out to be free and fair, and that some of the problems are eradicated ahead of the polls. I'll end with this final political story and then take your reflections. Walewale NPP parliamentary rerun, 3 arrested over ballot box snatching. Now, 3 people were arrested in Walewale yesterday when the New Patriotic Party's parliamentary primary rerun in the constituency was characterized by violence. Ballot papers were snatched and destroyed during the sorting process by people believed to belong to the factions of the incumbent Member of Parliament of the constituency, Haja Larba Zuwaira Abudu, and her sole opponent, Dr. Kabiru Mahama. Electoral officers could consequently not conclude the process to declare the result. The police later took custody of the ballot boxes and their consent and sent them to the Walewale Municipal Police Command in order to contain the situation. At the time of filing the report yesterday, the Northeast Regional Director of the EC, Gabriel Menu, said his outfit was waiting for the key representatives of the candidates to discuss the next steps. Okay, so starting with you, Wisdom. Fistula, presidential nomination forms, Walewale primary. Thoughts?
And yeah, I heard about both Vice President Bawumia and former President Mahama and the rest. They filed their nominations. I heard about that. It's quite significant and also a crucial step in the electoral process. I think it's significant because it carries implications for our democracy and governance. It might not sound as that to many Ghanaians because we do this every 4 years. But in a region where we still have dictatorships, right, and political persecutions in surrounding countries, I think we need to acknowledge the fact that these nominations continue to show that at the very least, we encourage democratic participation and also representation of diverse views. We have heard from the camp of former President Mahama and their views as they filed this nomination. They say their views are how they will create jobs for Ghana's underemployed and unemployed, including the youth. You know, especially those who have graduated from college and sitting at home because they can't find jobs. You know, and the former president camp, they have also shared their views on going after corrupt officials to recover what they looted from the nation, ensuring accountability and pursuing an agenda to also, you know, ensure economic recovery and growth and a fair opportunity for all. And we've also heard from the camp of the vice president that theirs is to demonstrate a moment of possibility. And I think it is these diverse views that we should be glad that we have in Ghana in our democratic process. I think it is now the turn of the EC and our security agencies and all stakeholders, to be honest, to ensure that we have a legitimate elections which is free and fair and also credible.
All right. Thank you for your thoughts. Kojo?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks. You know, this filing of nomination, you know, in total, I think 39 people picked forms, 12 political parties, and I think 27 independent. I really want the EC to go down the stringent letter of the law. Because if we are not careful, we'll end up having a pamphlet for the voters that on the day we'll have a pamphlet to basically campaign. I think a lot of
I know of a final figure of about 30. I don't know whether it encapsulates all of these other movements.
From what I read, it was 39 that picked the form. 12. I don't know if that number has changed, but it was 12 political parties and 27 independents. And for what it's worth, we should basically be able to make our form presenting and our application for the highest office of the land as stringent as it is. There's been in the past where people have falsified guarantors' information, being arrested and just getting a slap on the wrist and let go. I think we should take this exercise very serious. Not everybody can just come into town and decide that they are going to fill forms for presidency and go and falsify information, present them. So that, for me, I'm praying to EC to make sure that we go by the letter of the law, and if possible, we have to disqualify. Disqualify is the highest position.
But if people are qualified, you also maintain them. It's part of the democratic process. In Nigeria, there are times when you've had, a pamphlet of people applying. Not all of them will. But I'm just saying that you don't disqualify for the sake of disqualifying. No, but nobody's been. Now, come on. I mean, nobody said that. All I'm saying is that we know that most of these people, just by the carousel look of what the law is, most of them don't qualify to even pick the form. Because basically the 12 political parties are supposed to have offices in all 276 constituencies. And half of them don't have.
They don't have offices in 276 constituencies.
Right.
The fact that you are given a provisional license doesn't qualify you to basically present your nomination. And I think most of these issues is the doing of the EC. If they are stringent on the laws, they should be. And also there's a law that says that you should have at least 75% representation.
Okay.
So if a party does not have a 75% representation in terms of parliamentary, they don't qualify to stand for the presidency. These need to be enforced.
All right. Thank you. Let me just add the story from the Daily Graphic because it ties into what we're saying. The Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference has urged all stakeholders in this year's elections to work together to ensure the elections are conducted in an atmosphere of peace, fairness, and mutual respect. It also entreated the electorate to exercise their right to vote wisely and responsibly. Quoting the GCBC, educate yourselves about the candidates and their platforms and vote for those who align with your vision for a better Ghana. Your vote is a powerful tool for shaping the future of our nation. It is crucial that it is cast with careful consideration and respect for the democratic process. That was a communique signed by the president of the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference, Most Reverend Matthew Kwesi Gyamfi, on the theme, promoting peace, integrity, and fairness in the upcoming elections. It goes on, but you can grab further details from the Daily Graphic newspaper. The New Finder, and I'll go a bit quickly so we maximize time within the next 10 minutes and we're out of here. Migration of educated youth worrying. That's according to Yamson. I'll get into that story. No debt restructuring with local contractors. That's according to the Finance Ministry. Recently, there was talk about that, but they are talking about external creditors. Cocobot begins self-financing season today. Energy sector merger risks price hikes. That's according to the IES and ASEC, who are raising red flags. Let me go straight to page 2. Now, managing partner at Yamson & Associates, Mr. Harry Yamson, has issued a stern warning over the growing migration of Ghana's skilled and educated youth, calling it a serious challenge that requires immediate government and private sector intervention. In a paper he authored on the issue, Mr. Yamson highlighted the complex factors driving this exodus and emphasized the urgent need for strategic policies to mitigate the adverse effects of the Ghanaian economy. It goes on and on, but I keep saying, we're sitting on a ticking time bomb, and we keep saying, oh, of course, we can export and get the benefits, and, you know, they're going to repatriate funds. But yes, within the last week, over the weekend, a friend reached out to me on WhatsApp, a friend whom I was trying to actually get a job for somewhere, right? Reached out to me over the weekend, and he says, oh, this and that, can we talk on WhatsApp? He sends a video call, and guess what? He's in Ohio, in the US. Got out of the system. Whether it is education or whatever, some people just want to get out. And he got out for valid reasons. Then yesterday, there's a medical doctor friend someone else wanted to reach. I was trying his number, it wasn't going through. I suspected he was out of the country. So I called him on WhatsApp. He didn't answer. Later, he got back to me, and then I told him what my friend wanted. Indeed, this gentleman had also left the country. And I'm beginning to wonder, hey, it appears even within my circle, if I pick 50 people, I'm sure more than half would have left the country. And I don't know, but it is what it is. Energy sector, merger risks, price hikes. The Institute for Energy Security and the Africa Sustainable Energy Center have jointly raised red flags about the government's proposed merger of key institutions in Ghana's energy sector. Both organizations warn that these changes could severely compromise the country's energy security, financial stability, and affordability of electricity for consumers. These two stories for your reflection, if you have any thoughts on them. I'll start with you, Kojo.
Well, I'm very surprised that people make it look like people leaving the shores of Ghana for other countries is a new phenomenon. In fact, it's even slowed down. I mean,
Do you have statistics to prove that?
Yes, I have statistics to prove that.
What are your statistics?
No, let me finish.
No, Kojo, just tell me, where are you getting your stats from?
You used your own circle 2 out of 2. So that's your statistics, right? So you are saying even in your own circle, that's your statistics.
It's not 2 out of 2
well,
in recent.
Ben, you use your own circle, 2 out of 2.
Kojo,
that's
relax,
fine. In
relax.
the past, let me
I'm
finish,
just asking you, what are your statistics? Because there have been
but
reports from different organizations.
No, let me finish. You
US,
use your
Canada.
statistics
Okay,
2
go
out
ahead.
of 2, Ben.
Go ahead.
Ben, your conclusion was that 2 people you've called have left the country. So in your view, people are leaving in droves. I'm going to give you my own statistics of how I think that now is no longer the case. Okay. You forget that I lived in London. You forgot that I came back to Ghana in '98. So I knew when people used to travel out of Ghana in droves and come to London, right? That then has stopped. More people are seeking work in Ghana than they were back in the 90s and the 2000s. More people, even doing vacation, now more people stay in Ghana to work than go to London and those other countries. And I'm talking about my own statistics of people I know. The same way you use 2 out of 2 of the people you called. That's the same way I'm using my number of people I know.
Okay.
Because look, the point is
reality.
This. Well, look,
wisdom, let him land. Let him land. Let him land.
The point I'm trying to make is that I Kojo think that even if I had money, I would encourage people to leave and go and experience other nations and come back to Ghana. One of the fundamental issues is that everybody that leaves Ghana, depending on no matter what the period, they all come back. And they come back better people for their nation, and they come back more experience for their nation. There's nothing wrong with people leaving the shores of Ghana to other countries to basically work. It doesn't mean that it's a sort of a phenomenon caused by, there is this thinking that, because it's so bad in Ghana now, everybody's leaving. It's not true. The phenomenon of people leaving Ghana is, the embassies.
Kojo, do you ever bother to find out?
Let me
do you ever bother to find out? I'm only interjecting for good reason. Do you ever bother to find out from the people, especially young people, who leave the country? Because in my circle, and I did mention that the 2 people I spoke to were in the space of a week. As for if I'm counting within the last, I can't count. But let's forget US statistics about the number of Ghanaians leaving, which has tripled, by the way. So I don't know which statistics you're referring to, or Canada, what they are saying. But do you ever find out from, especially the young people traveling, do you find out why they are traveling? Do you find out?
Yes. And then, yes, and I'll give you one better. And you find out when they get there, the regrets they have when they get there. Everybody, look, the grass always looks green on the other side. I've been talking to people for years about why they want to travel, right? Look, let's not get into this, Ben. I have been in this. I actually had an office, shared an office with somebody who used to do visas for people to travel. I have been having this conversation with people for years. The next conversation for you is that when they go, call them a year, 2 years after and see the regret of why and they left and they think that it is not as green as they've been told it is. It's not easy anyway. And it's not now that it's not easy anyway.
I am sure.
Let me you will not let me finish.
But do you want to talk the whole time? At least we have limited time.
Let me abandon that and go to the merger. I'm very surprised at IES if the report associated to them is true, and I'm very surprised at any of the civil society organizations that says that merger of authorities, merger of regulatory authorities will create increase in prices. I'm really surprised, and I'm going to get to Nana Moisi after this call and find out where they make that conclusion. All the government is doing is basically realigning regulatory entities, PURC and Energy Commission, VRA, Volta River Authority, and Butte Power Authority, NETCO, and ECG. How does that basically create higher prices? When people are talking about we will resist it, when their own manifesto talks about these policies, it's very unfortunate.
All right.
Let me just take 30 seconds to respond to this.
Be very quick. I want us to be done in about 2.5 minutes, so be very quick with your submission.
Kojo, I think you are just gaslighting this situation, and you are being disingenuous when it comes to why people are leaving the country today.
Wisdom. I have said that we should avoid certain words to stoke.
I get that, but I want to make sure that Kojo and I were very good friends. I like to consider.
No.
But the truth of the matter is this.
Take the advice being given to you. It will help you.
Okay, I take that back, but I want to help you with this as well. People are leaving the nation today because they cannot find jobs. There are so many people that I know. I go to Walmart, right, and just walk into Ghanaians. And they are here. Some of them don't even have papers. They are coming with visitor visa, and some of them are not going back. All right, they are leaving because they don't have opportunities in Ghana. They don't have jobs. Yes, still we have our government, and some of them are giving our jobs to people that they know versus folks that are actually qualified to do the work. That is the kind of situation that we have back home. So, Ben, this one, 15 seconds. I am part of various Ghana associations over here. And what we are seeing is an influx of Ghanaians coming over, and they are looking for papers. They are looking for help and all of that stuff. So we need to speak truth to power that there is something going on we need to address.
And is that new people, that influx of people to the US looking for papers? Is it new?
I try to avoid interjections from the other side.
Let him land. What we are seeing now is something I've lived there for almost 2 years.
Please, let's stop this. It's nothing new. Please, let's stop that. Please.
Kojo, please. Wisdom.
Kojo, it's not new. I'm surprised people are making this new. How is that new?
One of the things you even said was that people leave and call them a year later and they regret. That's false. Yes. All right? That's
true.
False.
Very true.
That's false.
Very, very true.
Look, how about me? I live here.
Bob, your opinion, my opinion, your opinion, my opinion differs on this. Let's move on.
Gentlemen, let's cap it off there, because I could also say that indeed I know some people who have regretted going because they are building back in Ghana and they were never able to build before. I could say that. But of course, there could be some cases of people also saying that, oh, yeah, I went there and things didn't turn out the way I expected. I know some people who make it there and because their papers are not genuine, they are brought back with nothing because they were brought back. Some of them, they whisk them out and next available plane, and you are coming back. I know of that. I don't know, though, whether I can subscribe to the fact that a lot of them go and regret, because then I would be asking, why are they going and staying? Why are some of them able to repatriate money to their families? Why are some of them, and Kojo, sometimes you talk as though maybe you were the only one who had traveled to some of these parts of the world.
And that
back then in secondary school, people
Lumba had a song in 86. No, Yayaka Kwentio. Go and listen to Lumba, 1986, when they all went to Germany. Go and listen to Lumba's song, Yayaka Kwentio. That will tell you a lot. Lumba has a very good song.
We are ending with the Economy Times in 30 seconds. I'm not taking any reflections from you guys because we've run out of time. But Economy Times, job availability up by 2.4% first half 2024. Job availability in the country for the first half of 2024 has increased slightly by 2.4%, according to data from the Bank of Ghana. The number of jobs advertised in selected media, which partially gauges labor demand in the economy, remained largely unchanged in June 2024 relative to what was observed in the corresponding period a year ago. Ghana's reserves now 3.1 months of import cover, and then cocoa farmers expect 45% price increment. That is what they are hoping for. They are looking forward to a quantum leap in farm gate prices of their harvest by almost 45% for the 2024-2025 crop season, sources within government have hinted. I don't know when I say final words because our time is up. I need 10 seconds from you both. Kojo, starting with you. If you can just wrap it up. Our time is up.
Go and listen to Lumba's song that says Yayaka Kwentium. Everybody watching us today should go and listen to Yayaka Kwentium by Lumba. That will answer most of the questions everybody has today. Traveling and regretting has never been a new thing and a new phenomenon in Ghana. People have traveled to Germany in the past, traveled to UK in the past. Now it's US and Canada. It's nothing new.
All right, thank you. I do know that song, by the way. Yes, Wisdom, you have the final word.
I think what we should rather do is to pursue policies that will cause our people, help our people to come back home and prevent folks from leaving the country. That will help the nation. And for Ghanaians, especially the youth that have graduated, they can find jobs and they want to leave the country. One thing I can tell them for this election is, all
right. Thank you, gentlemen, for having joined the conversation. Kojo Poku is an energy analyst. Wisdom Dogbe is a financial analyst. Both of them joining us, as always, on a Tuesday morning for the AM News Review. Stay with us. We'll be serving you sports up next.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftaro Nabila Abdullahi. Ghana's qualification to the next edition of the African Cup of Nations in Morocco is currently under jeopardy after the senior national team were held to a 1-1 stalemate by Niger on March Day 2 of the qualification series. Ghana had lost their opening game against Angola at the Bawayara Sports Stadium last week, Thursday. And on Monday, the team conceded very late once again. Akufo-Addo and his men currently sit on the 3rd place on the league table.
First time. Movement. That's a lovely turn from Ashimeru. Under a little bit of pressure. Williams on the charge again. Kudus now. Onto his left foot. Williams looking into the middle. But flag is raised on the far side. Or is he? Onto his right foot he goes, and that bobbled up unkindly in front of Atizigi. And Niger could not convert the follow-up. 1982. It's a decent ball in, and there's space in the middle for Sosa, and he cannot take it on his left foot. And that's why Seydu a little bit of space now. What's the delivery like? Let's fly a goal, deflection, and Ghana lead by 1-0. At the end of the first half, well, he's been very impressive, Niger's goalkeeper, Abibulai, but he didn't have a hope of stopping that once the strike from Alidou Seydu took the slightest. He was invited to go forward, and he did, and he struck it well. And there was just the tiniest of touches off Yakubu for me. And as you can see, it just looped up the ball ever so slightly, but that would have been enough. Fatawu over on the left flank. In the early stages, Ashimeru in the middle. That's good goalkeeping. Right, Abibulai. If they can use this, if they can get it right, and they can't. Niger looked long. And up towards Sosa. Nice layup from him. This is nice from Niger. What's the ball into the middle like? Onto the right foot. I thought he was going to let fly. He didn't. Instead, it is a striker goal. They've trailed for the entirety of this second half. Just one shot on target all half. A little bit of a scramble in the area, and it's into the back of the net. And Niger have equalised. And Ghana are being pegged back.
Let's hear from Akufo-Addo, who said that the team did not learn from the previous game against Angola.
We're disappointed, to be honest. We talked and we trained set pieces. We talked about situations which could happen, and the way they defended in the last 10 minutes was really, really bad. I think in general we had the game under control. We allow sometimes some counter situations where we don't close the gaps really well. And then we got the lead. I think from that point things were easier. Also in the second half we changed some positions and some in the build-up, and also some switched to the sides from our wingers, and we had a different setup in the midfield. So it was good. In the second half we controlled them. We created a lot of chances which we didn't use. And at the end, these kind of games, they're like this. There are no cheap teams. Every team can play. Niger also did well, especially in their counter attacks. But yeah, I'm very, very disappointed the way we allow our goals. We had a quite cheap goal against Angola.
To Ghana Premier League stories, and Accra House of Oak had a very difficult start to the new Ghana Premier League campaign after suffering a shock 1-0 loss at the hands of newly promoted Ghana Premier League side Basake Holy Stars. Well, the press conference of that game had to be transcribed by security due to the venom that was being spewed by spectators or fans of this club. My colleague Achiu Tamaklo was there, witnessed everything, and he's been explaining what this season could be for Accra House of Oak.
The only thing different about yesterday's disappointing loss was that they did it with 7 new players, 13 overall from the 18-man squad that they fielded. And it wasn't just in the team sheet, but also the structure of the team and the deployment of some of their key assets were problematic. So, for example, Hamza Issa, the team's top scorer from last season with 13 goals, was deployed out wide. In the end, that deployment is what bit Hartlepool in the backside because he vacated a space he was supposed to defend, and because it doesn't occur to him naturally to do that sort of job, Holy Stars profited and then punished Accra Hartlepool. His partner up front, Asama Boateng Free, also joined Hartlepool from Nations FC after scoring 11 goals, played for the most part with his back to goal and further away from goal, and so in a role that essentially rendered him ineffective. But beyond all of that, you also have to look at the performance of the team in general. It was not so good, so bad that at full time the supporters booed the manager and the team. Knee-jerk? I think not. If you look at the numbers closely, Ouattara has been at Hartlepool for 7 months. In that time, he's won 7 games, drawn 3, and lost 8 times. He's lost more games than he's won as Accra Hartlepool manager. His team has scored 22 goals and have conceded 20. If you do the average, you're talking about a win every month. 1 win in a month. Simply not good enough.
Welcome back. So we kickstart with our big stories. And of course, we're going to be talking about a plethora of issues. Majority Leader Afenyo Markins accusing the NDC of engaging in political bias against Muslims, ousting their only Muslim leader, Haruna Idrisu, the former Majority Leader, from his leadership position in Parliament. They've also touted the MPP as the only party that is inclusive, stirring controversy. But we asked this morning, is there a place for the religious factor in the 2024 elections? Does it play any role at all? We'll be looking at myriad other issues, including the president, at the Ghana Bar Association conference, talking about the fact that some people are slinging the mud of corruption at him and his family, among other issues. But let's start from exactly there. Let's start from the president's comments at the Ghana Bar Association's conference, the latest one.
We've also taken strong systemic steps to combat corruption, rooted in a holistic program of legislative, administrative, financial, and technological reforms. We've established the Office of the Special Prosecutor, a critical institution in the fight against corruption, and we're provided it with the necessary tools to prosecute those who seek to enrich themselves at the expense of the Ghanaian people. During my first term in office, Parliament passed the Witness Protection Act in 2018, which I signed in law, to create a witness protection scheme for individuals cooperating with law enforcement, especially in corruption cases. The Critical Offences Amendment Act of 2020 elevated corruption from a misdemeanor to a felony, with harsher sentences of 12 to 25 years in prison. In addition, my administration has driven the passage of several key laws that bolster the state's ability to fight corruption. These include the Revenue Administration Amendment Act, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, and Anti-Money Laundering Act, amongst others. Together, these legal reforms have strengthened the institutional framework to combat corruption and ensure accountability. The Auditor General's report for 2023, for example, revealed a significant decline in financial irregularities within the public sector, dropping by 5.2 billion cedis from the previous year, a 32% reduction. Furthermore, we have worked to reform our legal and regulatory framework to enhance transparency and accountability. We've strengthened the right to information, ensuring that Ghanaians have the tools they need to hold their government accountable. The passage of the Right to Information Act, which preceding administration had failed to accomplish, was an important milestone in this regard, providing citizens with the power to demand transparency for their leaders.
Well, joining us for a conversation on not just that, but myriad other issues, we have Edem Senanu. He's co-chair, Citizens Movement Against Corruption. We also have Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, project director and Democracy Project. We have Musa Dankwa, executive director, Global Info Analytics, and also joining the conversation via the phone lines, Professor Kobi Mensah, a political marketing strategist. All of them joining the conversation. Let me say a very good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Benjamin.
Okay, so the response is also a sound check, so I can be sure we can hear all of you. And we also have in the studio, on the other side of the studio, Sweetie Abochi, who will be with me on this conversation. So, Edem, I'll start. Edem, I don't think I heard from you. Mr. Senanu. Hello, Mr. Senanu. Okay, let's start with Dr. John Osai-Kwapong. The president specifically talks about being painted, he together with his family, being painted with a brush of corruption. From where you sit, and then he talks about misinformation, disinformation, and then he goes on to refer to the fact that he's been called a clearing agent and that it is better than being government official one. What is your take on that rhetoric, Dr. Osai-Kwapong?
Good morning to you and good morning to everybody else, Sweetie, as well. So, you know, one of the things that I've always said about this presidency and this president is the fact that I can understand and appreciate his emphasis on the law and a highly legalistic approach to fighting corruption, right? So if you look at a lot of the things that he refers to, he talks about the legal framework, the institutional framework, all the amendments to laws, the setting up of the office of the first special prosecutor, etc., etc. And all of those things are critically important, right? You need those kinds of institutions to be able to fight corruption and fight corruption very well. But as he also points out, and as you raised, there's also been this narrative about, you know, his administration, issues of conflict of interest, growing perceptions, of corruption. And I've always said, and I will continue to say that one of the things that, in my opinion, has hurt the president is the fact that of this strong attachment to a highly legalistic approach in fighting corruption. I mean, he would always say that, he always used to take an exception to that labeling of a clearing agent. And he would always say that, look, not until you find yourself in trouble with the law, you would never appreciate due process. And that is true, right? Anytime an allegation is leveled against anyone, you want to be given all your due rights, presumption of innocence, all of those things. So he has a point there. My point of departure and respectful disagreement with the president is that the fight against corruption is not only a legal fight, it is also a political fight. And that is where the president has been hurt, in the sense that some of these, let's wait till the process is done, which is right, but politically can hurt you, is what has fueled these narratives and has continued to persist. One of the things I always ask myself is that for a president who fought so hard as a candidate to fight corruption, wins the presidency, puts in some of these institutional reforms to fight corruption, happens to also be the presidency under which, if you look at Afrobarometer, we see increased perceptions of institutional corruption, where we see low ratings for the fight against corruption. And for me, that is the point of reconciliation that is needed at some point to be able to understand why these narratives have persisted in spite of these efforts around institutional reforms. And that is what, for me, has really hurt the president when it comes to his standing on the issue of fighting corruption.
I'll be passing the baton to Sweetie Abochi shortly, but I just got curious. Like, you made the valid point. You see, on the part of the generality of the population, we can go to that aphorism: justice delayed is justice denied. So yes, follow the law. No one is saying don't follow the law. But like you said, being over legalistic with the law then simply means we can use the law to nefarious effect and use the same law that is supposed to serve to rather not serve the people. I don't know how you feel about this positioning about, oh, but we must stick to the law vis-a-vis all the stories, accounts, and even you can go to the Fourth Estate and the latest one it has brought out about Galamsey, which feeds into corruption as well. I don't know what your brief take is on that before Sweetie comes in.
Yeah, so my brief take is that, yes, we must follow the law, but you also have political tools at your disposal that you can use. So, for example, you can say to someone accused or alleged to have been engaged in corruption, you can say to them, look, I'm not saying you're guilty. All I'm saying is that these things can put a stain on my administration. Therefore, in the meantime, maybe step aside, right? Let the investigation finish. If you're cleared, you're more than welcome. I think some of those things could have really helped the president to supplement his legal approach to dealing with the issue of corruption. I mean, remember how swiftly Mr. Edubuahin was let go, right? A few of those situations, I honestly believe, would have helped the president's standing on the fight against corruption.
Right. Thank you, Doug. Let's go to Edem Senanu. Edem, it's good to have you join the conversation. Now, the president is defending his corruption record. He talks about the institutional frameworks, the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. But when you look at the incidents of corruption that has grappled this current administration and the conclusion or otherwise of it, how would you reconcile what he's saying, defending his record, and the perception that we have? Also on the back that, I think Transparency International current rating for us in terms of corruption is like 78 or so out of 180. How do you reconcile what the president is saying and the current state of in the fight against corruption in the country?
I think that the president needs to face the reality and just accept that the gamut of strategies he has deployed are not effective, have not been effective enough, have not been sufficient enough, have not been strategic enough. I mean, if you took a child to a hospital, let's say with a chest infection, and they gave you some remedies, some medications you take, you went back after a week, it's still the same. Third time, it's the fourth time, and they say, there's been no progress. It tells you that there's a problem with what you're using, as it were, to try and address it. So I'm clear in my mind that, I mean, on the surface of it, the president should understand that, yes, it is not that there have been no efforts, but much more substantively, what has been deployed has not been effective to address it. And that's why our CPI says we've stagnated 43 for 4 years continuously. Stagnation means there's been no progress. And that's the situation we find ourselves in. So it's not been effective. It's not been sufficient. So you need to deploy much more. It's not been strategic. I mean, I look at some of the things that we are talking about. We've been saying assets declaration regime needs to be fit for purpose for quite a long time. Verification and publication not happening doesn't make that, a useful tool. We've talked about unexplained wealth. We've talked about, there are all the issues, political party financing. Nobody's talking about that in this election year, even though we know that that's where all the problems start. And I think that the political parties need to look at themselves very critically. They don't seem to be delivering on the mandate or on the aspirations of Ghanaians. And there seem to be internal problems that are spilling over into what we see in the public domain. So I think that the president is not keeping it real. I don't know whether he writes his scripts himself or who writes it. They're not doing a favor to Ghana. They're not doing us. They're not standing us in good stead by the way they're approaching this. It's important that from time to time, the president is seen to be taking proper stock of where we find ourselves, is applying his mind as well as the minds of those experts around him to say, look, this is where we have failed, this is what we can do better. And then you will galvanize the support of the citizens of this nation. And so there's a gap. There's a disconnect between where the president finds himself and what he's saying and the rest of us.
So this gap, Edem, is it the legalistic approach like Dr. John Osai-Kopon is saying, or is it really just the conclusion of the incidents of corruption that we're experiencing and how maybe no prosecution takes place? I mean, yeah, just the conclusion of these incidents. Is that the gap?
Well, it is legalistic. It is also because they are not keeping it real. And unfortunately, that posture is becoming common among political party faithfuls, where we call them the party communicators. They just take a stance irrespective of the real facts on the ground. They are not keeping it real. We can all see that there's been increased reportage of scandals and issues. We can actually take the specific laws that have not provided results. When Cecilia Dapa's issue came up, clearly the gaps within the law and within our institutional arrangements were thrown up as tasks. So somebody speaking to that and say, look, we noticed this gap. Next time we should do this, so OSP could do better, or Yoko should have done that. Then you are showing that, yes, we understand that there is a fight we need to win and that we are bringing our best minds to bear on it. And the strategies we are deploying, we are refining as we go along. We don't see that happening. It's just talking over our heads. So yes, it may be a legalistic approach, but I don't think that's only it. I think that they are refusing to face the reality. They want to take the position that we are clean, we are doing the best possible, and they keep espousing that. It's almost as if a lie often repeated becomes the truth. But that's not it. A lie often repeated becomes like the truth. It is not the truth. And so we are all clear in our minds that this is not working, and they need to go back to the drawing board and come and keep faith, be real with the people of Ghana.
Right. Benjamin, realistic gaps in the approach to the fights of corruption?
Well, the president has said that a lot of resources have been committed to actually fighting corruption. Of course, we've seen the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Let's listen to what Mr. President had to say. Then we'll come back to you for your reflections. And then we'll also talk about the Conduct of Public Officers Bill. But for now, what did Mr. President say?
The Conduct of Public Officers Bill has passed the scrutiny of the Cabinet Committee on Governance and is now ready for presentation to the full Cabinet, after which it will be presented to Parliament for its action. I'm extremely hopeful that this will be accomplished before I leave office. It is also an undeniable fact that budgetary allocations for institutions actively engaged in public sector accountability, that is the Office of the Auditor General, the Judiciary, Parliament, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, the Ghana Police Service, the Economic and Organized Crimes Office, EYOCO, and the Financial Intelligence Center have all witnessed unprecedented increases since I assumed office in 2017.
Okay, so you heard Mr. President there, brief takes on that. So, for example, we have, let me also bring in Professor Kobi Mensah on this bit. Prof, good morning.
Good morning to everybody.
All right, it's good to have you join the conversation. We've already started talking about corruption, so if you have a take, at least from what we've said so far, you can bring it on. But for now, we just heard Mr. President talk about the allocation of resources for fighting corruption. And he talks about the Conduct of Public Officers Bill. A quick thing that comes to mind, especially as he talks about fighting corruption. this would be like something that, yes, we'll do it at the end of our tenure, and maybe it can hang around the neck of the next administration. You know, it leaves a lot to be desired on that front. But what is your take on the fight against corruption, how far we've come, and the relevance of a conduct of public officers bill as of now?
Okay, thank you and for having me, and good morning to my colleagues on the panel. Now, Benjamin, let's look at what actually fed into the president's political brand before he assumed office. I mean, in this country, obviously, we know that he's a lawyer. We know that he's a consummate human rights lawyer. But also, if you ask in town, a lot of people would also refer to what we commonly say a no-nonsense person, all right? And that's common, knowledge that people would tell you, Nana-Addo doesn't actually entertain, any, what we call behaviors that actually doesn't conform to, the expectations. And so these are some of the, images that are underpin political life. All right. Now, come to yours, and you have a complete no right. You have, the president that does not even recognize when people are actually shot dead. What would been coming after the action, 8 were killed. In fact, his administration, some people, prominent people refer to these people as criminals. No action, no word was heard from the president. This is the president who had seen some netherlands, all right? You can talk about PDS, you can talk about Japan, and nothing was done about it. It simply put it through the legal process to see, the outcome of it. This is the president who was actually, said about that he's in someone's pocket. He referred himself to, the police for investigation. Have we heard the report of that? We haven't actually heard anything about it. So even on the basis of the legalistic position, which, John accurately said about, we haven't even seen performance, in that front. So what I'm saying is that the very basis that actually contributed to the Nana's political brand, in which people had a lot of faith and actually thought that he could be completely different from his predecessor, hadn't actually happened. Look, if you look at Mohammed's administration, there was a talk about a minister wanted to have $1 billion. I'm sure you remember that.
Victoria Hammer, right.
All right. But she was moved. You had somebody who was alleged to have done a bad branding of a certain amount of money. Today, it pales in complete shadow. She was removed. But you have a president who people say that he is a no-nonsense person. He will not tolerate any deviant behavior in his government. And he's always saying that somebody has to be put through a certain legal process. Meanwhile, as Judge perfectly articulated, you have other outlaws under your feet to actually implement. It's not that it would conform to the brand expectations of the people who voted you to power.
So that point is clear. But quickly on the point of the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, like I said, how does that resolve this? Too little, too late, or it's good to come at this time?
I think that you're no-nonsense president that people thought you were, which I think John and the others actually articulated effectively. You do not necessarily need to wait for a set public conduct bill. Because to that point, if somebody would actually do something that would affect the public of your, you don't even.
Okay, so Prof, please try to reposition yourself. We'll come back to you. The line is a bit patchy. We'll try to come back to you. Please reposition. Let's see whether the line will be better. But, yeah. Sweetie, he's basically saying that technically for someone like Akufo-Addo who rode on the no-nonsense, straight-to-the-point, character, you don't need a bill to guide what you're doing. Just go ahead and do it. Don't tell us about a bill that you're going to push for.
But the intersection there is that he's a lawyer, first of all. So the legalistic approach is where, I think he thought that was where the battle would be won. But unfortunately, that's not where it has been won. So I think the question I want to ask is, if this bill had been passed, it's been pending since 2008, so we can't just talk about this administration. Mahama's time too, the bill was pending. So if this bill had been passed, would it have kept or would it have solved some of the incidents of corruption or conflicts of interest? I can cite the Snit saga about a cabinet member trying to buy a state institution. Edem Senanu, do you think that this bill, if passed, I mean, the president said it will be passed before his tenure is ended, would solve the problem of corruption?
Well, first of all, the president said he's extremely hopeful, which doesn't give me much hope, to put it bluntly. I would have loved to see a rollout plan, because even a few weeks ago, when on Joy FM I was saying this, the head of their manifesto team said there was no such thing before cabinet. So I'm not too convinced. But to the substantive issues, yes, because there are gaps in our current legal framework that this law would have addressed. Specifically, the Article 284 of the Constitution, that Traj would have been able to use this as grounds to then look at issues that come up with in relation to conflict of interest, find substantive issues with people who, engage in conflict of interest without, as it were, declaring their interest. It would have addressed the gaps in asset declaration, because there's a substantive part there also where we try and improve on what we have existing at the moment. And other elements as well. So we are not just talking about Kopo for the sake of it, but it is because within the current space, many of the cases that go to court, they suffer because there's not a clear understanding of what are the sanctions, what has gone wrong, and how do we, find the person guilty. So Kopo is very important if we're going to make progress, especially in the anti-corruption space.
Right. Let me throw this question to Dr. John Osai-Kwabon. Doc, what's your take on this, the passage of this Kopo bill? Would it solve our problem? Briefly, and then we move on to other matters.
I mean, it would go a long way to really help. At this point, any tools that we can come up with, any tools, any additional tools that can help in the fight against corruption, I would say, why not give it a shot? Why not try? Okay, so it looks like this is probably the key to Ghana's quest to fight corruption, Benjamin.
Maybe one of the keys.
Maybe
not the whole key, but maybe one of the keys. Edem Senanu, we're grateful for your time this morning. He, of course, is an anti-graft campaigner as well. He joined us for this conversation. Let me also say a very good morning to Musa Dankwa. I've already brought you in, but I'll be coming back to you on this. Afenyo Markin, the majority leader, recently, flashed the religious card, talking about Haruna Idrisu, the former minority leader in parliament, citing that, the NDC is against Muslims, maybe people of northern extraction. We ask, what role does the religious card play in this election? But before we do so, let's listen to Afenyo Markin.
It was a nostalgic moment for me as I observed Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia make history as he filed his nomination at the Electoral Commission. For the first time since 1957, when this country attained independence, it has taken the MPP as the first party ever to give a Muslim an opportunity to be a flag bearer in the politics of the country. We have given true meaning to our vision as a party for our country. That in our party is a party of inclusiveness and diversity. In the past, many were those who doubted the true colors of our party. But today, that question has been answered. That even in the NDC, the only gentleman who was the hope of the Muslims in the politics of the country was kicked out. I refer to Haruna Idrisu. In the NDC party today, there is no prominent Muslim leading the charge in the politics of their party. We have demonstrated that in MPP, it doesn't matter your religion, it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter which village you come from. We believe in competence. We believe that you can rise to eminence by merit.
So let me come to you, Musa Dankwa. Does it matter or just more politics? Your take.
Thank you very much for having me. It doesn't matter. I'm somebody who grew up in Zongo, lived my entire life in Zongo, and I'm from Achim, Abuakwa. So I understand the Muslim dynamics when it comes to Zongo issues. NDC has won the Muslim vote, not because they present Muslim candidates. It's because the Muslim traditionally allied to the NDC for some historical antecedents. And this goes back to 1969 Aliens Compliance Order that Buzia implemented and drove many of those people out of the country. And they happen to be Muslims. That's why we have this kind of history between NDC and the Muslims. And indeed, if you look at the polls we have done, in fact, in November, we did a poll of the Zongo communities, constituencies, or constituency that has Zongo communities, to assess who they intend to vote for. In that poll, among Muslims, Mama was on 76%, Bawumia 20%.
You say in that poll, as far as Muslims were concerned, the former President Mahama had what?
76%.
76%.
Yes.
And Dr. Bawumia had how much?
On 20%.
20%?
Yes, 20%.
In Muslim communities?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And that is part of why you think this whole bit about which party is fielding a Muslim doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. And if you look at the July poll, the most recent poll in July, you have Mahama on 56% among Muslims and Bawumia 36% among Muslims. And indeed, in this morning poll that we just released, you see that the same story is being repeated. So the Muslim issue, as far as NDC and Ghana are concerned, I think is non-starter.
You think it's non-starter? Did you just say that?
Yes. Even though it's a small proportion of people who are NDC voters who are now voting for Bawumia because he's a Muslim. But that number is very, very small.
Right. It's interesting, Sweetie, because really, when I look at a politician, and we've had Muslim vice presidents, by the way, and we've had contenders for the running mates on different sides who have been Muslim. But I asked myself, when I heard this, I was scratching my head a bit, doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm looking at competence and whether the person can do the job or gives me a semblance of whether the person is Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, or this or that. Doesn't really matter to me. I don't know about you.
In fact, Apenyo Makin himself said that it doesn't matter. But, I mean, if you look at the politics of it, I think this is a masterclass of campaign speeches to appeal to a particular group, the Muslims, and make them feel included, meanwhile saying that it doesn't matter. But I want to find out from Dr. John Osai Kopon, what does this really change, if at all? Does it change anything in tipping the scales, in winning votes in this coming December elections? Does it matter?
I don't believe it matters. I mean, I can understand why he was trying to tout the diversity credentials of the NPP, right? But for me, he could have left it at that instead of wading into, and this is what the NDC did and et cetera, et cetera. And as, Mr. Musa Dankwa said, if you look at the Global Info Analytics poll on the question of which of these issues or things are likely to influence your vote, for over a year between their July 2023 poll and their July 2024 poll, only about 1% say that, the issue of religion matters. The economy, jobs continue to dominate in their polls. If you look at Prof. Smart Sapong's poll, it was the economy and jobs. If you look at Afrobarometer, it's the economy and jobs. So, yes, I'm sure that there are individuals who some of these affinity characteristics may draw them to a candidate. But ultimately, what people are looking for are the key issues that are being captured in, for example, the Global Info Analytics poll, and consistently jobs and the economy is what is on the minds of voters. So as to whether you come from a particular religion or a particular part of the country, bottom line is voters want, a good economy, voters want jobs, and therefore really don't care much for this. I mean, whatever his intention is, whether it's to create some dissatisfaction within the Muslim community for the NDC, that is up to him. But for me, it doesn't matter. It's a very irrelevant political campaign issue.
Irrelevant. We cannot underestimate the influence of the Muslim fact. I think that it may not change much, but it's important. A lot of people who don't watch political shows like this and understand the analysis of the issues that other voters are looking forward to or will be voting on, there are people who just vote because they want to see a Muslim president. How does that play into...
So the irrelevance I'm referring to is that in the grand scheme of things, right, there are more important issues to the voter beyond a candidate's religion or beyond a candidate's other kinds of demographic characteristics. And you're correct. There are some people who would vote or will be motivated, by things like that. But I'm saying that those who are motivated by that are very small, very, very small. That in the grand scheme of things, it's the big ticket items that really matter to voters, like jobs and the economy.
Okay.
Let me bring in Professor Kobi Mensah. I have two straight questions for you. One, if we want to play the religious card, then we should also be looking at the population of Muslims vis-a-vis Christians, right? Christians constitute or account for about 71% of the population, at least from 2022 data. And then you have about 20% Muslim, right? Of course, the voting, communities will be slightly different in terms of the permutations. Is that a safe place to go when it comes to voting? Is it even strategic to want to play this card?
That is a very dangerous path, to thread. I mean, given the history of the political parties. And you see, don't forget, when it comes to ideological leaning, now, in countries where there are huge Muslim populations, that is, they're over in, that of Christians, you're most likely to have those, citizens aligning to maybe the right, for example. In most cases, the minorities in countries tend to be less leaning because of their special situations. Sometimes they feel discriminated against. Sometimes they feel that opportunities aren't there for them. So they become more progressive than, conservative. All right. And so the permutation of where certain groups of people would lean is multifaceted. You have to consider traditional issues. You have to consider the conventional issues. You have to consider other, socio-cultural groupings in order to think that, a certain group of people lean towards left or right. So the idea that you're going to cast a certain religious layer in order that people will shift towards the MPP, it's unimaginable. And by the way, when it comes to that conversation, your party stands to lose, like Musa Danko actually said. Because when you read the literature and when you look at the history of this country, majority of times the Muslims are actually leaning to the right and to the left. Now, those who are actually gradually leaning to the right, that is towards the MPP, is because of opportunities. When you look at the North, because proponents of them were actually to the left, when it came to positioning, people were left out, and they realized that, wow, there was opportunities or there are opportunities in the MPP. Why don't you take that opportunity? And that's why you see a lot of them, swearing towards the right now, not because traditionally they are aligned to the right, all right? And so you have to look at the dynamics of why certain groups of people would lean towards a certain political party in order to pick that particular fight. I don't think that what he said was relevant and needed, especially in a situation where you have the economic issues being predominant. Even if you had a certain fertile economic situation, you probably would want to lure into such areas.
Okay.
But not when what matters in people's lives so far is very deteriorating. And then, of course, you're picking a fight that is unnecessary.
All right. Prof, I'll come right back to you, but let me also usher into the conversation Mustafa Gbande, he's Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Mustafa, good morning.
My brother.
It's good to have you. Sweetie Abachi will come to you shortly. But, Prof, just briefly on this point, because Dr. John Osai-Kwapong said it was irrelevant. You have just said you don't think it's relevant, basically meaning both of you think it's irrelevant on some score. But will this political strategy resonate with the grassroots? Because it may not be for people like me. That doesn't change anything. But how about the base of these parties, the grassroots? Will it resonate with them? Briefly on that, Prof.
When they feel existential threat of not having their own person at the top there, it could be relevant. But when the existential threat is actually about delivery, about performance, about jobs, and about economic issues, I don't see how that really will play big time in their consideration, all right? Of course, there are people who want to see their own identities in positions, hoping that that would actually bring them the goodies. But that's a different kind of, political messaging. It is not about the Christianity or the Muslimness of that person. You want to tie into your person is there as a result. You're going to get a job or you're going to get a certain economic issues resolved. But not a bare fact, idea that this is a Muslim.
Right.
Especially when they haven't actually seen that reflect even in their current situation. I don't think that really works.
Right. Let's bring in Mustafa Gbande. Mustafa, so how do you respond to accusations of religious bias following the removal of Haruna Idrisu, as said by the majority speaker, as against them presenting a Muslim flag bearer in the upcoming December polls? What's your response to that?
First of all, good morning to other panelists on the other line. My initial reaction to this is that the comment is below the belt. 2, it's very dangerous if we begin to deliberately and intentionally draw in religion, ethnicity, basically into our political domain. Ghana has a history of a fused, tolerant, religious establishment. And so if we begin to do this, then we'll be dividing homes, dividing families, and setting this country up for major conflict. If you look at, in terms of security, what has happened in other nations, I think that what the Honorable Majority Leader have said is not just condemnable, it is also dangerous. It sets the nation on a pedestrian of religious, rivalry. But let me also say that in the NDC, we will not base our campaign, our political organization, our mobilization, our intention or vision to manage this country along the lines of religion. The NDC is on record to have always looked at building a nation, lifting up the vulnerable, and bridging the social gaps.
Right. Mustafa.
Honorable Haruna Idrisu was in Tamale over the weekend. I was there myself. The running mate was there, and some functionaries were also there to launch his campaign. He's one of the pillars of our northern politics. Has grown over time, rise to various leadership positions. He didn't get there because he was a Muslim or a Christian. Honorable Mutaka was in Tamale over the weekend. We joined him to do a lot of activities. He did not get to where he was, even being appointed as a sports minister because he was a Muslim or a Christian. It was basically on issues of competence and a decision of leadership.
Okay.
And at all times, leaders will come, leaders will go. So the attempt to seek to throw in religious division by Appenyamackins into the NDC is not just demonic, but it is also trivialized along what we call politicians who make loose talks. The MPP is in power. They should lift society. They should develop society. They should build a nation and stop finding excuses for their laziness, their incompetence, and their ignorance. We should not allow the NPP to set this nation up. We should not allow any politician.
Ghana is a cosmopolitan country, right? And so we have different mixture of cultures, religion, ethnicity, and the rest. And the season is ripe for politicians to punch loopholes in their opponents' strategies, campaign messages, and so on and so forth. So if they've identified a gap in your strategy, your message, or in fact your team for the December 7th elections, is it not theirs to use? If they've found this religious card, is it not within their rights to use it as a campaign tool to win the election?
As a student of security, I think that those are dangerous terrains for us to allow our political discourse to veer into. I've always stated that the NDC is very careful not to spark the tone of ethnic and religious politics. We are aware that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the MPP is doing many things, including trying to bribe pastors and all of that. But we are not concerned because if you raise a political card, it doesn't put food on the table when you discuss religion. I mean, there's no. The NDC basically is one that cuts across. And we are okay to position ourselves in that manner. We will not join the MPP in their recklessness and their desperation to break an eight, they call it, at the back of corruption, fraud, and incompetence to try and plunge this nation into chaos. And I urge all other commentators to condemn the MPP because these are dangerous terrains. Those who have read political science, history, and security will tell you that when a nation begins to toe clear religious and ethnic lines, sooner or later, that nation will go into war.
So just to be clear,
the NDC will not toe that line.
The NDC will not be playing any political, religious, or ethnic cards in the build-up to the December 7th elections.
We have never done so, and we will never do that.
Right.
We have allowed people to join the NDC on the basis of belief in ideology, partnering to develop a nation. People will look at our track record, our performance, and will join and vote for the political party. The object of governance is to put food on the table of Ghanaians, is bedding Ghanaians, take stress out of Ghanaians, champion policies that will build an all-inclusive society. Right. And so the NDC will stay and will try to stay on that footing. I mean, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the leader of our party, he was raised from both a home of Muslim and Christianity. I have been a Muslim for over 35 years. I'm a Christian. My traditional family are Christians or Muslims. They are raw traditional people. And so would you want to go and stand somewhere to want to skew and to want to position a political party along, religious line? It is dangerous. It's fundamentally condemnable. It shouldn't be coming from a majority leader. I mean, MPP should be very careful with their utterances these days because they are closer to doing things that will divide our nation. They have caused the nation too much pain. They've hurt the corridors and the fiber of this nation so much that they should not be allowed to proceed on this path any further. We should have a political activity. We should have conversations that builds our society, a conversation that reassures hope for our society, a conversation that gives hope to the next generation, a conversation that ensures that Ghana is a cosmopolitan, a religious, tolerant nation as we have always been.
Right, Mustafa.
These breed of national officers and appointees President Akufo-Addo have brought to this nation are not just dangerous, but they are a threat to our national security. And they must be viewed as such. Apejo Markins must be condemned. He must be called to apologize and retract these reckless statements he has made.
All right. Mustafa, thank you for those comments. It's also good to hear that you talk about the fact that the NDC will not be going down that same road. But let's also hear from the Attorney General at the latest Ghana Bar Association conference. He was talking about the Electoral Commission and the fact that as far as he's concerned, they've done fantastically well. We'll get into that and find out on the back of calls as well for a sanitization of the electoral register. But let's hear from the Attorney General.
We must steadfastly resist the dishonorable deeds of those who, without cause, sow seeds of doubt in the ability of the Electoral Commission to organize a credible election. We must deplore, jettison, and without any reservation, reject rhetoric which fans the flames of conflict. The credibility of Ghanaian democracy and the conduct of elections in this country can clearly not be denied by any objective onlooker. We must resist the vain efforts of naysayers who constantly sow seeds of doubt about the credibility of Ghanaian elections. The Electoral Commission has had a sound appreciation of the sacred constitutional responsibility it bears to the people since 1992. Remarkably, it remained unshaken in its quest even in the teeth of COVID-19 and rose to the occasion in 2020 in delivering an internationally affirmed, free, fair, and perhaps the most transparent elections since the inception of the Constitution in 1992. It bears emphasizing, I'll say the inception of the Constitution in 1983, because legally it started on 7 January 1993. It bears emphasizing that an election is a process, among other things. It includes the demarcation of boundaries, registration of eligible voters, the creation of voters register, printing of ballot papers, distribution of ballot papers to voting centers, supervision of voting, the casting of votes, counting and progress, processing of the votes, the declaration of the winner or winners. So far, I have not noticed anything untoward about the Electoral Commission's handling of the process. Even though Ghana has come far in consolidating democracy as a way of life, we can consider free and fair elections in this country as a matter of course. We cannot take that progress for granted. For this reason, we continue to talk about these things as a way of entrenching those undoubted values we hold dear and warding off potential wreckers of the peace of the nation. We must steadfastly resist the dishonorable deeds of those who, without cause, sow seeds of doubt in the ability of the Electoral Commission to organize a credible election. We must deplore, jettison, and without any reservation, reject rhetoric which fans the flames of conflict.
Well, those were the comments of the Attorney General. Let me bring in Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, and then I'll come to Professor Kobi-Mensah on that point as well. The AG patting the EC on the back, but it appears most other political parties are not feeling that way. Prominent in this discussion is the fact that the NDC, for example, wants an external forensic audit of the voters' register. And mind you, in 2012, thereabouts, there was a similar call, that time by the MPP, and it was done. I believe it was the UNDP that actually got involved and conducted this. Why not now? Your take. Let me start with Dr. Osai-Kwapong.
You know, I've been saying regularly that I don't know how this started, but some way, somehow, our two main political parties have gotten to a point where they really believe that their success or otherwise at the polls is also a reflection of what the Electoral Commission does or does not do. So every election cycle, you get some of these issues coming up. It really, for me, in my opinion, it really intensified in 2016. If you look at in the lead up to 2016, then some of the things that Madam Charlotte Osei was taking through and had to deal with because of all of these suspicions about her motives, etc., etc. Now you see that again repeating itself, this time on the flip side, with the ruling party being more sympathetic to the EC, the opposition up in arms. The reverse was true in 2016. So I'm not sure, though, that we've gotten to the point where, I mean, I understand some of NDC's concerns about the provisional register. The EC has said, look, that's why
they've spoken about bloating in many parts, over 200,000 votes. And they've mentioned that in some places you are seeing add-ons of 3,000, 5,000. You put that together, that could sway, that could turn the tide of an election.
Precisely.
And they are saying they are not going to sit down and let that happen. But my question is, why is the EC not opening up its books? If there's nothing to hide, and I'm not suggesting they have something to hide, but if in the past we could open up our books for external forensic audit, why can't we do so now? Not necessarily because you feel like doing it, but because it would get minds at ease to salt away, wash away any thinking if something happens that the election has been stolen. Why not?
Right. I mean, in principle, I agree. Anything that the EC can do, especially at this time, that builds up voters' trust and confidence in the institution and the processes that they are putting in place, would be very helpful. But on the other hand, maybe in the mind, in the minds of the EC and in their thinking, they don't believe that these issues are widespread enough to merit that external forensic audit. And for that, I leave it up to the judgment of the EC. But one of the things that I've been saying this and I'll keep saying it is that the EC is going into this election having one of the lowest trust ratings they've ever seen in the Afrobarometer survey, which is why, for me, I'm always encouraging the EC that they have to keep that in mind, that anything they do as part of preparing us for the December election should also be driven by the fact that they want to restore some of that lost trust in the institution. Yes, it doesn't mean that they will have to accede to every demand from the political parties, especially the main opposition party. No, it doesn't mean that. But it also means that how you handle these issues that I imagine would go a long way to either worsen the trust or rebuild that trust. And for me, I just hope that the EC would continue to be guided by the fact that all they want to do is to assure us that we can have trust and confidence in their processes leading up to the December 7th election.
Prof. Mensah, just a quick one. It's like a scale. On one end, the AG says, EC, picture perfect. On the other hand, others say, EC, not really cutting it. And John Osai Kwapon just mentioned the Afrobarometer report. What is your assessment? Do we have Professor Kwame Mensah on
yeah,
the
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Excellent. You see, this administration, including its key ministers, sometimes think that they can actually cure bad public perception with speeches. And so when their conduct goes south, then they mount the platforms to give flowery speeches, hoping that they can solve the public perception. I mean, the beauty of democracy is the pluralistic society that is breathed. And so the measurement of a government performance is not through a one-dimensional perspective of a government and its ministers, but through the perspective of the pluralistic society, just as you pointed out. I mean, if your government is praising itself, what are the other sections of society saying? And that's what John is talking about, the Afrobarometer. If the Afrobarometer, which is conducted from multiple sources of the society, is actually saying that the EC's image is the lowest, but you have government officials saying that thumbs up, 100% good job. How does that cure the public image, very bad public image of the administration? So sometimes when I listen to them, it sounds as if they live in a completely different planet. that they are very much oblivious of what the people are feeling. And that is the insensitivity that people talk about. You have 8 people dead in an election, and you said that election was free and fair. You have a lot of chaos that happened, Ayawaso, for example, and you said that that process was free and fair. You had so many concerns that people raised about the election, and you are just praising yourself that you've conducted the best election ever. Sometimes I wonder how they actually think, their thinking processes. And you see, that is why it makes people become so disappointed and disillusioned in Akufo-Addo, because this is someone who said that somebody took the Ghana or took a kenke from one price to another, and therefore, if he was them, or he were them, he would actually consider leaving office. But look at the kind of things they did, and they have no clue how bad people feel about this, and they praise themselves every day. That's the sorry state of this government.
Well, it will be interesting to find out what the NDC thinks about some of these matters, including their planned demonstration if they don't have their way on some things with the EC.
Yeah, but even before we go there, I mean, this is like the 3rd time I'm listening to that bit from the AG's speech. And in terms of democracy and governance, right, and the general principle of independence of these institutions, the question of whether the Attorney General should be defending the Electoral Commission.
You're asking about his locus in all of this.
Because the EC is supposed to be an independent body, free of influence, and when the AG jumps to the defense of the EC, it may create a perception of bias.
Maybe it's also because of the theme they were discussing.
Well, but I'm just saying
his
that
locus,
should
I don't
the
know.
AG be defending the EC? It's
Right.
just a question on my mind. But let me ask Mustafa Agbande, how does it sit with you? I mean, the AG is saying that the EC is doing well and nation records should not interfere with their processes. And you are saying that on the 17th of September, you are going on a nationwide demonstration against the EC. What are your thoughts? Mustafa Agbande, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's interesting that Godfred Dame will make such a statement. We are not surprised about it because his president have supervised the highest subversion of our rule of law, the highest level of abuse of human rights, the highest weaponization of state institutions, dilution of same against human beings in Ghana. Now, let me be quick to say that it's also clear that government have closed windows to a democratic engagement, taking into account opposition. But we give government the highest of assurance that insofar as our demands of the Electoral Commission is in the interest of the nation, our contribution and commitment to stay to the peace of this country, to commit to a peaceful electioneering process, and by just calling for enforcement of transparent processes. If this makes us nation records, let them allow us to go to 17. We will shake the foundation of this country. It will not be a demonstration as usual. People will sleep on the street until the Electoral Commission does the right thing. And if Godfred Dame thinks that we are nation records and we don't fit to demand the right thing to be done, let him come to the street and meet us there. You see, it points to everything that President Akufo-Addo and his regime want to destabilize this country before they leave. But you see, we are ready as a political party to safeguard the democracy of this country, to safeguard the peace of this country, to defend the democracy of this country against such character of people. I mean, it's baffling, beyond imagination. So in the space of 2 days, you have a very sickening comment from a majority leader that insecurity is condemnable, You have another reckless comment from the legal advisor to the president, who is supposed to be wise, who is supposed to be educated, who is supposed to operate with care.
Mustafa Agbande, you are making your points, but this bit about who is supposed to be wise, who is supposed to be educated, I think is below the belt. Please withdraw.
I'm sorry, but let me also make a point to say that his comment again just tells you what the government is thinking about. I mean, we are going into an election. Electoral Commission admits that the register we have now is flawed with errors. Promises to, restore or correct things. Because the Electoral Commission's own action have not led to trust and public confidence, we demand that let's use state institutions to make the process more transparent through a forensic audit.
And so, Mustafa, you think that this demonstration, Mustafa, hold for me, and we need to make it brief. Do you think that this demonstration is the ultimate way to force the hands of the EC to conduct this forensic audit into the provisional voters register?
It is not intended to force the hand of the EC. It's intended to manifest our rights available to us legally. It's intended to communicate to the people of Ghana and join forces with the people of Ghana to ensure that the right thing is done. You just condemned what the Attorney General did. You just condemned what he said.
I didn't condemn. I asked questions of whether or not that's an argument we should make. I didn't outrightly condemn. It's a question I asked. If he should.
So I'm just saying that because of the weight the Attorney General carries and the role he plays in all of these matters, trying to defend a commission when we are just asking for transparency, only demonstrate to the fact that this commission will not do anything until a public manifestation of a protest is done.
Right. So now
and I dare say that we will do it and do it well.
Right. You've had a series of meetings and it didn't produce the results you want. I'm tempted to ask you, what if this demonstration doesn't also produce the results that you're looking for? What next?
When we get to that bridge where Ghanaians who are desirous of voting, whose names in the register are being threatened, who do not trust the Electoral Commission, join forces with the NDC to go to the street. When we are out of the street, I'm sure the answers will come from there.
Thank you, Mustafa. Ben.
Well, so here we are. They are planning this demonstration and they say if the right things are not done, then they'll be hitting the streets in just a matter of days. We'll take the concluding comments from our guests as well, and we'll bring in the issue of Walewale. Of course, we also saw in recent days the interactions there, then the vote, and what happened subsequently with 3 people finding themselves complicit in a few things. But let's listen to these sounds. Let's watch this, and then we'll be back on that discussion. Okay, so before we get there, let me bring in Dr. John Osai-Kwapong on the Attorney General's comments and then matters arising. Dr. Osai-Kwapong, any thoughts on these? Any reflections?
I mean, I can understand the call to not denigrate the institution or create narratives that sort of cast doubts on the integrity of the EC. I mean, I understand that call and why we should sort of have certain kinds of dispositions towards our institutions like the EC. But as I've also said, the EC does face some major challenges in terms of public perception on the question of trust, and so the burden is not just on citizens to sanitize their perceptions about the EC. The burden is also on the EC to ensure that all their actions or inactions goes a long way to assure citizens that it is an institution that can be trusted.
Okay, Professor Kwame Mensah on the same point. So the demonstrations, I don't know whether you've addressed the bit about the demonstrations, Dr. Osai Kwapong. What do you make of this, posturing?
I mean, it's their constitutional right. For me, as I keep saying, I leave it up to the judgment of the EC to figure out what they want to do in response to some of these concerns that the NDC is raising.
All right. Professor Kobi-Mensah, so on that point, and then the demonstration as well, the right way to go to get electoral register sanitized?
Well, of course, I mean, as a political communication, lecturer, I see that demonstrations are one of the, potent weapons of political participation. If you look at the big decisions globally, from the political front and even from the economic front, what has yielded results, especially amongst, political leaders who do not want to take action or institutions that do not want to take action, is demonstration. And so if the NDC feels that that's the only language that the leaders will hear, why not? It's their right to actually do that. But with regards to the public image of the EC, I don't think that the citizens have actually any responsibility of sanitizing. It's the EC that has responsibility of sanitizing its behavior, because I'm not sure that if the behavior of the EC is in accordance with the expectations of the people, a certain institution, just like the NDC alone, for example, could paint a negative picture for the public to actually consume. It doesn't happen. And when you look at the interaction between voters, media, and the political class, that interaction is actually mediated, of course, the voters and the political class is mediated by the media, of course. And so if the EC was doing something better, I am sure that it will be in the public where people will be able to appreciate. And of course, they will counter the position of the NDC, for example, if they thought that it is not the right thing that they are talking about. But you have completely different, situation. A lot more people think that the EC is not doing what is right. You claim that there is nothing untoward, but we have seen photos or footages of people holding, their biometric, devices that are not supposed to have. People have come out to actually talk about they being transferred without their knowledge. All these things are things that are playing out in the media. Would the media concoct these stories? No. But even if the traditional media, let's say, for example, had been, hijacked by a certain political party, what about the social media footages that we're seeing? What about people's own personal accounts that we're hearing? These are not made-up stories. These are facts. And so the EC has responsibility to sanitize itself so that people would change their perception towards them. And so for me, they need to put their house in order.
Right. Thank you so much. Now, you recall that during the NPP primaries, there were some issues that characterized the elections in the Walewale constituency. And the case subsequently went to court because that election was inconclusive. And the court ruled that there should be a rerun. This happened yesterday, but again, it's been characterized by some chaos. In fact, there were some warning shots that were fired. Ballot boxes were snatched. Some people are currently in police custody and so on and so forth. Let's take a look at what really happened, and then we'll come back and discuss.
The democratic process has been organized. Sorting was done. Someone out of fear, knowing very that there's imminent defeat, has decided to disrupt the process. We know the person. I have raised issue this morning. You remember the confusion, the chaotic situation that visited the accreditation. The same person. So if someone tells me he doesn't know that person, I'm afraid. If you tell me you don't know this person, he's been arrested. The former constituency chairman for Yagaba Kubori, Akamara Bawa. You tell me you don't know him, you don't know someone who has been on campaign platform campaigning for the MP. Such a person has abused the processes, disrupted these processes. I just hope the police will be able to take his course. The ballot, I'm told, is secured. It will be counted. They must count it. And I have absolute no doubt that when it's counted, the winner, the voices of the people, the people's favorite will be declared. This is my statement for them. But look, I have raised issue about this personality. I have had calls to go in and alert them. They should tell me.
You were all aware that we are having the MPP primaries today. We started, everything went very well. They finished voting. After the voting, we did the sorting. Just as we are about to finish the sorting and do the counting, a certain man from nowhere came in and stuck the ballot papers, destroyed most of them. The police were able to manage to arrest the person. He is right now in the police custody. Then we salvaged some of the ballot papers that have been damaged. We brought it to the police station. We called the two sides, Kabiru side, then the Ajia, Lariba's people. Ajia people were there. When we called Dr. Kabiru's agents, they came here. If you saw them, they were here. They told us categorically that they will not take part today nor tomorrow. But per our rules, we have to continue to do the sorting. We opened the ballot box. After the sorting, we saw that some of the ballot papers are badly damaged in such a way that you cannot determine it for candidate A, not party candidate B. We made some consultation, and that was very difficult situation. We found ourselves. As you cannot, some of the ballot papers are damaged, and for that matter, you cannot determine. You see that we have to stop there for the party to take their decision on that, whether they will ask us to continue to do another elections. That one will come from it is MPP's election. This is an internal party decision. So we couldn't determine the winner today. Like previously, it went to the court, then the court annulled it, but today, the ballot papers, some of them were badly damaged in such a way that we couldn't determine it for candidate A, nor candidate B. To be fair to the other candidates, you see, the Kabiru peoples were not here. And they even has rejected completely that they would not take part. But when you are even doing the sorting, even AGS candidates, they too were rejected because there were some ballot papers that we were wanted to take it to A or B, and they were seriously opposite, vehemently opposite. And for that matter, we couldn't conclude the issue. So that is the issue at stage now.
Well, let me come to Dr. John Osai-Kwapon. Doc, so it looks like this is the second time the election for the NPP primaries in the Walewale constituency is inconclusive. And it's between the incumbent MP, Lariba Zueratu, and the special advisor to the Vice President, Dr. Mahamatia Kabiru. And some names have come up. The former chairman of that constituency for the NPP has been reported to be the one who snatched the ballot box. But I don't know what you make of all this brouhaha. I mean, second time a rerun and we are still inconclusive in Walewale. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that things are turning out this way in a primary that I thought was going to be resolved by now. Yes, after the first one goes to court rules that look, go back and rerun this. So I was hoping for a peaceful rerun of this, settle the question finally, and then just move on. You are only you have up to the end of the week to file your candidate for for this December, I believe. But you also have just 2.5 to 3 months to campaign, for the seat. Electoral violence should be condemned. I mean, you're stealing ballot boxes, stealing ballot papers to damage them just because what you think your candidate is going to lose. For me, such persons must be punished and punished very severely. That even next time when they smell the winds of an election, they will even get close to it, right? Because I mean, these are not the kinds of behaviors that you want to encourage, and this is an internal party election just to pick a candidate. Why go as far as misbehaving, so badly?
Benjamin, this is an internal election, so what really is the catch? Why do we have to be here at this point?
Well, I mean, I guess the parties are getting ready to rumble. And even at this point, if internal elections get like this, only God knows what the general ones could be. But Professor Kobi-Mensah, I'll come to you for your quick thoughts on this as well. What are your takeaways?
I mean, you can actually factor this by 10, and you can see the chaos ahead of. I mean, this is the, you would say that the NPP zone, obviously the backyard of the vice president, and you have this chaos. So for me, the EC has a lot of work to do. You can imagine the contentious, constituencies, those that have a very slim margin between the NPP and NDC. What is going to happen there? What is the EC putting in place in order that they could actually, curtail some of these issues? What are the security agencies putting in place? I mean, this could be taken as a mock exams, right? So that we could actually put proper systems in place to guard against, one of the most contentious elections yet to be experienced in this country. But again, I am very sure that the EC is not going to actually learn any lessons from this. You have postponed this election twice with heated debate, argument, etc. What are you putting in place in order that you could prevent two political parties who are absolutely cocksure that they're going to win the 2024 election? So this should be a lesson for all of us, that the next election coming, it's not a joke.
Okay. Interesting thoughts. Let's cap it all off, sweetie, with Musa Dankwa.
Right.
You've been patient with us, staying all through. What are your thoughts? I mean, the NDC is planning a demonstration on the back of the EC's register, and then this Walewale issue as well. Any parting thoughts for us?
Yes, thank you very much. On the EC register, I think if you're an accountant and you do a sample and you pick few errors in the population, you would like to assess whether on the whole the errors will be material. And if they will be material, then definitely it needs someone else to look at it. If the numbers we are seeing in some cases straight out, that is enough to turn a parliamentary seat on its head. So that is material. And also collectively, across the 276 constituencies, what is the implication of those errors if similar numbers are there elsewhere? That could be in excess of maybe 200,000 votes. What vote did Nado win the last election by? This is material. This is significant and needs to be audited. In the case of Walewale, I'm a bit disappointed that this has to go to another round of voting. But whatever happens in Walewale, I think this seat could be seriously under threat. They last won it by a few percentages, less than 3%. And if there is infighting in Walewale today, they must as well kiss goodbye to that seat. It doesn't look good for them on that score.
Let's go for a wrap of your thoughts. It's been a great panel today. I'll start with you, Dr. John Osai-Kopon. Final words.
Well, we're getting closer and closer to December. I just hope that, especially on the Walewale situation, I just hope that this is not the precursor of, what we can expect or things to come. I really hope that everything will be in place for us to have, peaceful election, free and fair election. At the end of the day, it's an election. I always say it's not a matter of life and death. Yes, it's important, and yes, there are major issues at stake, but this is not something that we must engage in acts of violence just because we want our side to prevail.
Right. Professor Kobi-Mensah, your parting words.
Well, I think that people must actually take their personal security seriously because clearly, yes, depending on our personal situation, as John is saying, we might not see it as life and death, but to some people, it is life and death for them. I mean, I personally have had quite a number of experiences. And so personal security is very important, How do you guard yourself against, people making arguments, what decisions must you take when you hear people flaring up here? You have to actually be concerned about your own personal safety, personal security. And to the institutions, I think that we have to be responsible. You know, some people have guarded this democracy over a period of time for all of us to benefit. And I always say that what if the Rollins actually said that he was not going to give the throne to Akufo when he won? Would we have actually experienced the consecutive elections as we're experiencing now? So for those who actually keep on saying, we're not going to hand over power, we're not going to hand over. Look, there was a time that we're condemning, you know, some people for having a certain poster, not even to say that they were not going to hand over power. So we should ensure the security of this democracy so that others would enjoy just as we have enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Professor Kobi Mensah, Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, and Musa Dankwa. We have Haruna Mohammed also with us. Haruna, your concluding thoughts, please. Haruna Mohammed is from the NDC. I mean, I know that this is an internal election, but I don't think the NDC wants to just twiddle their thumbs and watch it unfold. What are your thoughts on that? And then we can wrap up.
I'm not clear with your question.
Okay, we are concluding on all the issues, and we are focusing on the conflict in Walewale, that rerun of election that has also been rendered inconclusive, as well as everything else we've discussed, from corruption, Akufo-Addo saying that his record is solid and all that. Just give us a wrap of your thoughts, and then we go.
Unfortunately, I have not followed the discussion. I have not heard the commentaries of
what do you make of the Walewale constituency? Okay, just what do you make?
I've not heard their commentaries, and I would have been very happy to have heard them and to be able to make decisions to contribute to the commentaries. Okay, so
Haruna, if you can hear me, we've just brought you in at the end of the conversation. We had Mustafa Gbande on the other end, your opposite number with the NDC. But what we want to focus on is Walewale. We are capping off the conversation, but we've brought you in on Walewale and this rerun that has also turned out inconclusive. What can you share with us as far as the MPP is concerned on this? What is the way forward?
On the matter of Walewale, the chairman of the elections committee would have to bring a report before the national party. I was changed in the process. The general secretary had done the membership to go to conduct the elections, and I was the chair for the elections. When NEC met on Tuesday, I was changed per NEC decision, so I did not take part in Walewale's election. In fact, I was not in Walewale yesterday. I was in my hometown, Zabzugu and Yendi.
Yes, but you've heard what has happened there: the ballot box snatching, the police having to intervene, and another inconclusive election. What does this mean?
I cannot give a report of Walewale, but as a national party, what we will wait for is that we will have to get a report from the chairman of the elections committee, which is the third national vice chairman, and the party will take a decision on this particular matter.
How do you feel as a party, though? I mean, people are already suggesting this is not even the main election. This is just an election, intra-party election and a primary, and it is turning out like this. How concerned is the party? Twice, and you're still inconclusive. How concerned are you?
I cannot debar the people from their inferences, depending upon what is happening in Walewale. Everybody has the right to be able to interpret what have you, but it's very unfortunate that we have to get to where we are today in terms of the processes in Walewale. I believe that the party, as a national party, would get its grounds and deal with this particular matter. I am not clapping for what happened, but I'm so much disappointed that we have gotten to this particular stage. And as a party, we know the timelines for filing is very close, and the party will take a very decisive decision towards meeting the timelines for filing of parliamentary candidates. But internally, the party will look at this particular matter carefully and then deal with it.
Haruna Mohammed, we are grateful for your time. He is Deputy General Secretary of the MPP. We had his opposite number also joining the conversation, Mustafa Gbande. Among others, we had Edem Senanu, an anti-graft campaigner, John Osai, Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, a CDD fellow, Professor Kobi Mensah, who actually is a political marketing strategist. Musa Dankwa, who is with Global Info Analytics. All of them joined the conversation. Sweetie.
Yes, let's take a break and we'll return with more on the AM show.
About whether legal or illegal. The videos you showed, a lot of them have legal licenses, yet the environment is being pillaged. So it means that it hasn't worked. And I will tell you that this community mining program, for me, is an euphemism for galamsey. Because there's no control. The environment is being decimated. So we are saying that, what we're calling illegal or illegal, is all the devastating environment. So we need to pause. And if you are going in one direction, then you need to change direction. You need to stop first before you can change direction.
I understand you have.
Illegal mining activities, also known as galamsey, on and near water bodies is causing us more harm than good. A few weeks ago, the Ghana Water Company Limited reiterated the damage and how they are unable to supply water because of that. And so on the back of that, the Ghana Medical Association and some other trade unions petitioned the president to take immediate action, but there's pushback from small-scale miners on the back of that. The association is saying that that call from the Ghana Medical Association on the president to urgently place a ban on all small-scale mining as a result of the wanton destruction on our forest reserves and water bodies is not a call in the right direction. They're saying it's misguided because illegal mining is not small-scale mining. So let's discuss this. We have joining us for this conversation Professor Osei Sampini. He's forensic and histopathologist at the Department of Pathology, School of Medicine and Dentistry at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And he's also a consultant pathologist at CATH. We will also be joined by Godwin Ama. He's the General Secretary of the Association of Small-Scale Miners, to help us get a comprehensive understanding of how we can move forward. Let me start with Godwin Ama. Godwin, thanks for joining the conversation. Do we have Professor Sampini with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I can't hear Godwin, so I have to start with you. Prof, you have done a lot of medical research in this area. Safe to say you were the first to engage in this endeavor. What has been most striking for you in your findings?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me once again. And let me just start by saying that once I met one politician who said that we are engaging in what he calls talkathon. And I say, yeah, probably so, because Ghana, that is what probably we are good at. We say things and eventually go to lie. No one else, follows it up. And so probably he is right. However, I will be also sad to add that ever since I came out with the findings, the very findings that I did, which of course, initially I thought it was just coincidental. And later on, when it started happening repeatedly, then I realized that we are in trouble. And so recently, as recent as some few months ago, my team of researchers also chanced upon some other findings, which I believe that it's worsening. The situation is, it's going from bad to worse. And I believe that whatever we need to do to curb the menace is, we have to do that, and then we'll be in the right place. And I listening to what the small-scale miners have just said, and I really expect it, because they will feel that's their livelihood, and somebody to have come out just to say that they should be banned, they wouldn't be happy. And so that is exactly what I feel, that there should be a sustainable effort that we have to persist, and then let the government know that what is happening is not the best of things, and then we are dealing with generational extinction, if I may say so.
Right, and the Illegal Miners Association are saying that a complete ban on all small-scale mining is a bit far-fetched because there's a difference between small-scale mining and illegal mining. What's your arguments for, against that?
Well, I'm all against it. I'm very much against it in the sense that Ghana is not the only place where we mine gold. Venezuela, other places mine gold. And when the situation became such precarious that almost everything was in the situation where we find ourselves in Ghana, what they really did was to ban the mining for some time and probably started regulating it. You know, the interesting thing here is that when I engage some of these miners, both legal and illegal ones, their argument is that the mines, where, for instance, if you have a concession, that place where you have concession will not actually be enough for you to recoup whatever you would have actually invested in. And so you move from one place to the other in an attempt at searching to get more. And so it doesn't matter whether if the person has a concession of, let's say, 3 or 4 kilometers or 4-acre land or whatever, and he feels that that place is not what he's looking for, and he or she will move on from one place to the other, looking and searching for more. And so therefore they will go at any length to do whatever they want to do. Now it's not only the illegal ones that is mined on rocks, they are also moving into river bodies, in fact river beds, what we usually call alluvial mining. And that is one of the most dangerous things that is also happening, where they mine right in front, right by the river bodies, and therefore allowing spillages to come in and then contaminate the waters that we are seeing. Not only waters, even aquatic bodies are also being destroyed as a result of the activities of some of these people who are now engaging in alluvial mining, as well as those who are licensed to do the mining. Because of lack of regulation and lack of monetization, they are doing whatever they are doing and causing a whole lot of problems in the environment.
Right.
But probably when we deal with the various things, the things that I have actually come out with recently, and you will realize that it's quite alarming. And so therefore, I'm so much in support of the stance of the GMA. In fact, recently the UTAC has also called on the government to also put a halt into it. In fact, to put a halt and then probably revisit the whole thing, and then probably come out with a very strong way by which we can actually contain the menace. Okay. Otherwise, I think it's not very important that we continue.
Prof, thank you. And hold for me. Ben will come to you in a bit. But let's hear from Godwin Ama. He's General Secretary of the Association of Small-Scale Miners. Godwin, I want to hear from you exactly what your concerns are. I'm sure you heard Prof. Sampeni telling us that it's not like we have to ban the entire venture, but to halt for a while and reassess, also because it's devastating and it is causing all of us more harm than good. So what are your issues? What are your concerns? Elaborate on why you're calling this direction misguided.
First of all, I'll say good morning to your viewers. And I have to correct some impression that was made by Prof. He said he spoke to some small-scale miners. I don't know which small-scale miner he spoke to or which company that I spoke to. And then they said they moved from one place to the other, which I find it very difficult to understand. Because small-scale miners, your concession is fenced that you are within. Anyone that you see on the river bodies using floaters are not small-scale miners. They are illegal miners. Illegality is illegality. There's nothing like illegal small-scale mining. Small-scale mining is different from illegal mining operations. Small-scale miners are not given concessions in the forest reserves. It's only large-scale companies that are giving concessions in the forest reserve. Those who are perpetrating the illegality in the forest, does it mean that it's all the large-scale companies that are perpetrating their illegality. So people should understand the sector. You speak with the sector, you don't speak about the sector without understanding and from points of ignorance. Because most
please, Mr. Ama, don't come on this show talking about a point of this and ignorance. I don't think if someone said that about you, you'd be happy. I urge you to withdraw and then make your point.
No. Then let me put it into a better.
Please withdraw before you put it in a better way. Withdraw first.
I mean, it's not like the person doesn't. Yeah, I withdraw that with ignorance, but having better understanding of the sector. Because the small-scale miners, as we speak, we don't work on river bodies. Any person you see on the river body is not a small-scale miner. Any person you see by the roadside, working close to the river is not a small-scale miner. These are illegal miners. The Bank of Ghana, doing their good purchase agreements, who are perpetrating illegality. I am one of the companies that they approached and they bought gold from. If you come to our workplace, you see proper sustainable mining in place. You go to Q8, you see these are miners that have invested and are working as entrepreneurs, following the dictates and plying their trade in a legal manner.
Mr. Ama, I have a quick question for you.
Because few people or some people are perpetrating the illegality and there should be a total ban on the whole sector, I will not say is something that the association will support.
We are currently hold for me, Mr. Ama. Hold for me.
We adopted the brain river. Within 1 week, 2 weeks, stability levels that were around 2,000 came to about 50. Okay, I'm listening.
All right. I was just looking at some footage and it's rather concerning. But you're saying that, I mean, there would be... are you saying that... I'm not talking about illegal mining, Galamsey. I'm talking about the small-scale miners, those who supposedly are legitimately doing their work. Are you saying some of them are not engaging in illegality? Because in the past, I've heard that even some small-scale miners are doing some things, mining in certain areas, going beyond concessions, adopting certain practices that they shouldn't be. Are you saying that all these small-scale miners are sticking to everything they have to stick to, dotting their I's, crossing the T's? Is that what you're saying? I know there are some network challenges, so we'll see whether we can get Mr. Ama to answer that question, because I really wanted to find out whether he was trying to say that small-scale miners are doing everything right. Yes, we can take out illegal mining, which is another form of small-scale mining, but I don't know whether small-scale miners are totally, outside of the bracket. All of them, I don't know.
In fact, that's a basis of his argument, that small-scale miners are operating within the law, and so they should not be banned. If anything, we should be focusing on these galamseyers. But in fact, whether small-scale mining or galamsey, mining near and on water bodies in these areas, that forest reserves, is destroying us. I think we have Mr. Ama back on the line.
Mr. Ama, did you get the question? Mr. Ama, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Did you get my earlier question?
I do.
I don't know whether Mr. Ama can hear me. Let me try one more time. If not, then you can go back to Prof. All right, so Mr. Ama, if you can hear me, we'll try to reach you on phone and then see what we can make of this conversation, at least from your end. But maybe coming back to Prof, right? I want to find out, he was saying that you may be unaware of something, so you may be speaking from a point of not knowing what the facts are. What do you think about the small-scale miners, and are all of them sticking to the script in terms of what they should be doing? How much do you know about that?
Well, thank you so much once again. And I think I've met Mr. Ama some time ago when a forum was actually organized, and I was one of the resource persons. I know him very well. Not very well as in knowing him, but I know him for what he does as a person in terms of job. No problem, whatever he's saying. But if see, for one to go into research, we don't just jump into anything. We take so many things into consideration. One of which is you have to engage those in the activity to see why they do what they do. And that the explanation, like I have heard, is the fact that some of them explained to me that the mining is such that the concession will take it takes a little while, maximum 1.5 years, and the place is consumed, is finished, and so you have to move on. And the question is, when they move on, they leave whatever they've done behind, and then when it rains or whatever happens, this spillage, the water that is in their pit, spill over into joining streams around. I will tell you exactly what I'm talking about if maybe time will allow us to do that, because recently I sent some of my students to go around and picking water bodies from these places, and up to 3.5 kilometers from the mining centers, especially those that have been abandoned, we found heavy metals, mercury, lead, and all manner of heavy metals that have contaminated water bodies up to 3.5 kilometers away from where the mining is being done. So, Mr. Ama, yes, it's true that as a businessman, you want to maintain and you want to, sustain or fight for your company. Yes, I understand you. But probably you'll be doing the right thing. But what about the others who are actually mining, even though they have license, and yet they are doing illegal things? So that is where the problem is. And so if the license is what we have to go by, then it means that somebody can buy a gun, tells you that he has actually licensed the gun, and starts shooting around just because he has a license to buy a gun. So we should be very careful and be mindful of it. The situation is very precarious, and I believe that Mr. Ama should side with us. We are not saying, I believe that the Ghana government or the GMA will never place a total ban on it, but rather let us reassess the whole thing and come back with a very good, policies that will control the way things are being done, because it's not the best. If you continue like this, children are being born with all manner of diseases, all manner of deformities. Now, some of them are being seen glaring. Some of them are being seen grossly. You can see them, but those that are not seen, they are inherent. Some of them are inherent, especially those with this cognitive impairment. Children with kidney diseases, children with lung diseases, children with liver diseases, children with intestinal diseases. Now, these days, you can go to the hospital. A child of about 10 years, 11 years, 12 years is having to, struggle with all manner of cancers of the intestine, because it is noted, it has been proven that children, when they consume some of these food that contains heavy metal, they are able to ingest and even absorb over 90% of it. And so some of these things have been proven. It has been actually been seen elsewhere, probably not in Ghana alone, elsewhere, that when children consume these heavy metal polluted foods, they are able to sustain it, and they are able to take it for a long period of time, which eventually cause what you call mutations in their genes. Their DNA is going to be destroyed, causing all manner of cancers, liver cancer, kidney cancer. In fact, you will be surprised. That's the reason why I believe that GMA has also seen it, because they are now being seen, they are now being actually forced to work under certain conditions. You'll be in the hospital as a doctor, you see a child suffering from disease that hitherto were not common amongst us. And so Mr. Ama and any other person who is engaged in this mining probably should, find a way of meeting the government, understanding the stance of the GMA, understand the stance of the UTAC, so that we do something about it. Because for me, as a researcher, for some reason, everybody will know that, in fact, will accept the fact that I saw it from afar and I started working on it, and now a lot of people have joined in. And it's good that we have to join in, because we can't continue to fold up our arms whilst few people decide to destroy the environment, and to destroy, children yet unborn.
Right. So, Benjamin, I know you want to go back to Mr. Ama, because the danger of this is that it's non-biodegradable. You can't just have these minerals in your body for decades and anyway.
Wreaking havoc. Mr. Ama, so the question I was posing to you earlier, and now you join us on phone so you can hear me clearly. Yeah. Are you suggesting that all small-scale miners are adhering to the law as it ought to be without exception? Is that what you're saying?
You cannot have 100% of everything, whether small-scale media, whether doctors, every group, you cannot have small-scale. You cannot have 100% proof. There are exceptions. There are people who, one way or the other, fall to the dictates of their industry. So I will not hold that the small-scale miners are 100% adhering to everything. Even large-scale companies, recently, we have a very big international company that had issues with even their operations, and they were fine. I don't want to mention names. So we cannot say that we have everyone doing everything 100%. The same way you have journalists, you have doctors, sometimes they work and there are mistakes and issues also happen. So I'm not holding brief for any small-scale mining that the sector that we don't have any challenges in terms of environmental issues by one or two people.
Right.
But once these people are ready,
I just have a quick follow-up. You say by one or two people. We don't have full statistics. I've heard numerous stories about supposed small-scale miners who are not sticking to the letter of the law in respect of what they do. But that's where the devil is, isn't it? It's not about, it's not 100%. Let me finish. It's not about, Mr. Ama, let me finish. It's not about it's 100%. It's about how many are doing the right thing and how many are not. If even 10% or 5% are not doing the right thing, there's a huge problem. You may say, but if 95% are doing the right thing and 5% are not, but what is the impact of the 5% who are not? That should be the question. It's not really about all of you are doing the right thing.
You are not, then at the end of the day, if you look at it as 5% not doing the right thing, that's why I give examples. In every industry, we have people who may be going 1 or 2, 3 people doing something that will be not 100% according to the law. But when we are looking at this small-scale mining issue, the forest reserves that we see that people are mining, they are not small-scale miners. Permits are only issued to large-scale operators. Are we saying that we should ban all large-scale operators because some people are in the forest, degrading the forest? Those who gave them the permits to enter, what are they doing about them? How are they enforcing their work? So every time there is an illegality, they want to push the illegality to the small-scale mining sector. 2019, from 2017 to 2019, there was a total ban on small-scale mining in this country. 2018, we had over 18, the highest gold produced by small-scale miners. Who produced them? These are small-scale miners were banned, and the illegal operators were operating on the field.
Mr. Ama,
so when you've applied for your license to operate,
right,
and you are not going through the tenants of the license, you can be stopped. Those people who are not doing their work well should be stopped.
Right, Mr. Ama, let's stay on that point for a bit. You yourself have said that 1 or 2 people may not be operating within the permits of the law. So we have 1 or 2 people. Now, these 1 or 2 people, their action is causing babies to be born with deformities.
No.
Hold for me. Let me land on the question, and then you get what I'm trying to say. Well, you get the point I'm driving at. So the question I want to ask you is, you yourself have said that there's no way to tell whether everyone, all small-scale miners are operating within the permits of the law. And the GMA and the other unions are not saying to completely ban small-scale mining for the rest of our lives in this country. We cannot leave the mineral in the ground and be poor. The question is, they want to ban it for a while, do a reassessment on how we can streamline and ensure that the effects that we are feeling are minimal. So the question is, what is your argument against halting for a while and streamlining or reassessing how we can still mine without the effects that we are feeling at the moment?
No, in 2017 up to 2019, small-scale miners were banned. Do you get it? We, as an association, work together over 8,000 chamfans and dredgers on our river bodies. We work together with government and other agencies to ensure that we get rid of these people from the river bodies. We also brought in that even within the regulation, manufacturing, transportation, and the use of these dredgers on our river bodies are banned. If you have majority illegal miners polluting these water bodies and you say small-scale miners should be banned, I really don't understand. Just like you have few radio stations not complying with the laws and we say the whole radio stations should be banned, the whole media or television stations should be banned, then you are not being fair. Those who are doing it well, let's allow them to do it.
You are
Those who are not doing it well,
on the ban.
Let's deal with them.
But the ban is not an end. It's a means to an end to the menace, not an end in itself. The ban is just to allow for the authorities to do a reassessment. And I think that's the confusion, right?
The reassessment. You see, how long are you going to ban somebody if you are working as a mine and you put so much into it? Even if they ban you for a week, 2 weeks, 1 month, a year.
What about the greater good, Mr. Ama?
The number of years that they ban, you still have to maintain your money.
Right. But what about the greater good then? What about the rest of the country who are feeling the pinch? Should we say that because small scale...
We will not sit for illegal operators to go and perpetrate illegality on our river bodies. They are not miners. Those who are not in the forest reserve, they are not small-scale miners. Those who are working closer to the roads are not small-scale miners. And you say because these people are perpetrating their illegality, they should come and ban us who have gone through the process to acquire a license to work. We have Minerals Commission, we have the EPA, we have Water Resource. They come to the site. Those who are not doing it right, they deal with them. That is why I gave an example. A large-scale operating company, an international company, they flouted, they had accidents on their site. They did some things that were not according to the dictates. Did we say that we should ban the whole the large-scale companies? If people are in the forest reserve and the licenses are issued to large-scale companies, do we say we ban all of them? We should be fair to indigenous people who have invested in small-scale mining.
Mr. Ama,
at the end of the day, what are we calling for?
We are saying that illegal mining, galamsey, mining in our forest reserves, water bodies near it, has become it's become a canker eating at the very fiber of this country.
Which we all support.
Hold on for me, please. It's affecting almost everyone right now. Ghana Water Company Limited is saying they're unable to supply the 70%, which was already a deficit. We're all the way down to nearly 30%. The question I'm asking you is, should we say for the sake of a group of small-scale miners, we will not do what needs to be done so that the rest of the country can be saved? We are drinking water with cyanide and all these minerals which are non-biodegradable. It means it stays with you for the rest of your life, causing so many, deformities and ailments. And the question I'm asking you is, are you saying that because of a small group of small-scale miners, we should not do the one thing, ban this activity for a while, reassess, and then whatever needs to be done, we can look at it comprehensively? Are you saying that we cannot do that because it would affect your business as small-scale miners? Where does the greater good come in?
We can still solve the problem. We can still solve it whilst we have the legal operators still working in place. If we want to look at it holistically, you have the small-scale miners with their licenses. We know where they are working and all that. Those people are already working. Those who are not small-scale miners, we can identify them. So if I have my license and you come to my site, these are my coordinates. I'm working within it. I'm doing everything that is right. Why should I be banned? So we should first of all stop the people in the forest reserve. Stop these guys who are working on the river bodies. Let me give you an example. In 2023. The Small Scale Association with the task force, if you ask Akufo-Addo, the regional headquarters of Ghana Water, we work with them closely. Stability level from 2,000 up to Edem on the Brain River, we reduced some places to about 50. Every morning, the managers of the pump stations will call us.
All right.
The stability is going around 100. What can we do? Then we send our task force. Where is the water coming from? We stopped and they were able to pump. This is on record. You can ask them. From 2,000 to 50. We do not ban anyone. So if we want to solve the problem, yes, although we are having challenges with our water, which we all admit, which is for our own existence is under threat and all that, we cannot say that we should ban them better because we have this legal law. That is, we can still let the small scale operators work. We work together as a team and get rid of these legal operators.
Mr. Ama, thank you. Thank you so much. And that's all time will allow us for. Let me go back to Prof. Yeah, thank you so much. Prof, final words, but I must ask though, is this ban on small-scale mining and illegal mining, a complete ban on all this, is that the only way to go to deal with the situation at hand?
No, I don't. I don't also support that the complete ban is the panacea to the solution. I mean, to the problem actually.
Okay.
But what I am saying is that yes, there should be a temporary ban, which of course I believe that the UTAG, the Ghana Medical Association, is also calling for same. And so let me just quickly, just 1 minute, I mean, to address what Mr. Amma was saying. Assuming that the 5% or maybe 1% of those who have been licensed or not licensed to doing what they are doing pollute water bodies. You know that the UN Convention says that if water bodies are polluted in any form, whether 1% or 2%, it's seen as a criminal offense, and therefore whoever does it is actually supposed to be prosecuted by the International Court of Justice. And so the whole thing is alarming. So Mr. Amma, please, and any person who holds the same view as Mr. Amma should be very, very mindful of whatever is happening. Seriously, he's talking about few people, the turbidity. It's not only the turbidity of water bodies that we are talking about. Abandoned pits. Look at it. Almost all the pits are abandoned and waters are filled in them.
Yeah, the reports
in fact, I have a research, maybe later it will come, which of course is under review for publication, where these abandoned pits are killing a lot of people. Right. Children as young as two years.
Yeah.
I mean, at the back of their mothers will slip and fall into these water bodies, and they kill, they die. You see, so it is not just about only the spillage of these heavy metals. Other menace is also there that probably is of minor significance, and therefore people don't even want to talk about it. But if you look at it from 2010 to 2023, the number of people who have fallen into these abandoned pits and died of it, in fact, it's quite alarming. So I strongly support the UTAG. I strongly support even if the government will ban it for the next 5 years, 6 years, for us to do the right thing, so that those who are involved in those acts will also, for instance, even when he's saying that they go around to support the task force and all those things, we want to involve them in the going around and helping the task force to bring out those who are not doing the right thing. Even those who are even licensed and yet doing the wrong thing must also be brought to book. That's all what I want to say.
Thank you so much. That's all that time will allow us for, Ben.
Thank you so much.
You know, one of the very disheartening things as we go, I just remembered the second time I was in the Netherlands about 2 years ago. A number of people told me where I was in Rotterdam about how there and in other places, the water quality is so good that they can drink tap water, without needing bottled water and all of that. It's safe and scientifically proven. They can drink their tap water. Look at us. Over to you.
But right before we go, Joy News, an amalgam of corporate religious bodies, are organizing a sort of a seminar on the theme. So Joy News. So right before we go, the Energy Commission and Ministry of Energy, in collaboration with the Ghana Education Service and Ghana TVET Service, presents the 5th edition of the Energy Commission Senior High School's Renewable Energy Challenge. This challenge aims to develop the research skills of senior high school students and promote technological innovation in renewable energy, competing fiercely in this thrilling competition at the following schools: Obuasi Senior High and Technical School, St. James Seminary Senior High School, Ola Girls Senior High School, Ahantaman Girls Senior High School, Pando Senior High School, Dabokpa Technical Institute, and many others. You want to join us for the grand finale on Tuesday, 8th October 2024 at the Accra International Conference Center. And you can also catch the live broadcast on Joy News at 9 a.m. same day. This event is proudly supported by GIZ, Ashesi University, French Development Agency, VRA, and others. Then,
well, let's tell you about Joy News and an amalgam of professional bodies organizing a public speaking event on the theme Transformed Individuals Transforming the World, a challenge for the religious community in Ghana. speakers you can expect on that: Dr. Philip Engman, Dr. Mrs. Yvonne Yenchua Eseku, Ambassador Umar Sanda Ahmed, that is Lieutenant Colonel retired. The main speaker, Reverend Dr. Joseph Kofi Entry, and the moderator, Philip Osei-Bonsu, host of Ekosisei on Asempa FM. The date is the 17th of September, 2024. The time is 6:30 p.m. at the British Council Hall. You want to stick and stay for that on that day, the 17th of September. For more information, just call 0244-220-427. This event is powered by Joy News and Joy FM. And that's how we wrap up today's AM show. It's been a pleasure coming your way. Sweetie Abochi has been here. And it's been another exciting day. We look forward to tomorrow, don't we?
We'll see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. sharp. But now, Joy News Desk is up next with Faustina Safo. Mwah.